Hey there, it looks like it says it's live, and I did come with company. I've got AmishDaveArcher. How's it going, Dave?
Well, it's going good, Carlos. How about you?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks for pinch shaking and coming on. Appreciate it.
Well, we have to always remember that sometimes sorting through the Ziggy Palfy cards always takes precedent. And so if Amit can't be here, Ziggy again will
Of
be
course.
here.
Listen, of course. And the important thing that you guys understand, I don't care what Amit tells you. He could tell you, he's been working really hard, he's being driven down to the ground. Allegedly that's true, and probably there's some truth to that. I would suggest probably there is. I know for a fact. Now, I will give Amit a little bit of grace because he did let me know days in advance. So I was able to at least start reaching out and say, okay, let me see what I can do. I kind of still wanted to do the Sunday live stream though because I enjoy it. It's kind of fun to end the weekend this way. It's especially since there isn't any pressure to do any big interviews or anything. Like that isn't required. It just I can come on here and we'll hang out. And the truth is, I was serious when I said earlier, Dave. If worse had come to worse, I was gonna just start sorting through the box, and I might still do that a little bit because it does need some sorting. Because the Z folios are in good shape, but the stuff in the box is kind of a hodgepodge of there's some really this box has some awesome cards in it. But 100%, to be honest with you, it's in no order in particular. I have no idea what order it's in. I was looking at it, I was like, oh, if I tried to find a specific card, I could find it, but you'd have to give me about 20 minutes to sort
Mhm.
through like stacks. And we're like, okay, it's here somewhere. I know it's there. Anyway, so I'll just quickly say hey to a couple of folks here. Paul, good evening. And of course, our favorite person, number one hockey fan in the entire world. Number one,
Bar none.
bar none. Appreciate it, Steve. Hope the evening's going good. So anyway, so we're gonna chat for a little bit, hang out, and I will show. I already showed Dave one of the cards that I'm going to be showing off on the Instagram. I did put a couple of cards that came in this Saturday, and it came Saturday because it originally came on Friday. So hey, Jeremy, how's it going? It came on Friday, and I got a couple of those delivery notices. So I went to the post office, and it was open on Saturday. So I was like, awesome. So I ended up picking them up, and I got some good ones. I got a couple of good ones in there, and I'll be able to show that here a little bit. So that's always good.
I was hoping to have a good one, but wow.
You get well, yeah. Dave was messaging me earlier. He was taking a shot at a couple of big ones there, and
I
he's
took a shot.
he what's that?
I took a shot. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he took a legitimate shot at it, but the price inflation uh, hit Dave, and it hit him home where he lived. He got to see a good taste of it. It's like, no, Paul. I will tell you that the delay was. I needed a couple of minutes just to finish off a couple of things. Just as we were getting started, I was rushing at the end just to get everything set up, and I was like, all right, now we're good. Now we're all right. All right. Good evening, Ziggy. No, it's always good. That's good, Steve. So hopefully we'll get a chance to see the video for that at some point. The thing is, that's the fun part. Sometimes the anticipation is almost better than actually getting the actual card. Once you get it in, it's like, all right, sweet. Then you process it, you put it away in the box or whatever. That's always helpful.
Mhm.
So a couple of things, and I actually, believe it or not, I actually found over the course of the last couple of days, I've seen a couple of things that I think are actually worth talking about. So I go, we can do that too. Why not? So why not just show off a couple of the cards here just to begin with? I put them here. I'll do a little screen share. Okay, so let's see if this works out. You have to let me know, Dave, if you can see it all right. Let's see if I can do it this way. Does this work? Can I do this? Nice.
Mhm.
It works. Sweet. So this one actually made it onto Instagram today as part of kind of showing that I was going to do the live stream. I put this one on. So that's one of the 2002 2003 SP game used double thread. So you got the double patch card. On this one, the turco is just a one color. It's fine. Really, I was more interested in seeing that the Medana was a multicolor piece, which is good. It all came. So let me quickly grab here. Good evening, Vinny. How's it going?
So, Vinny,
The second one though was actually really good. I like the patch. I like both patches. This one actually came out really nice. When SB Game Use did their stuff with these patches, some of them really came out well. And this is when you're still getting like game use. These are still game use patches at this point in the early 2000s. This one we talked about on one of the last live streams with Jeremy because I had won this one and now it's in hand.
Mhm.
Winning Formula Platinum, 21 of 21. Last one in the print run. eBay 1 of 1. Hashtag invest. But no, this was a big one. This is one of the Grail ones from the late '90s because outside of a 1 of 1, like in '98, '99, Upper Deck had the 1 of 1s. Outside of that, though, and like a superscript, which is out of 25, I was racking my brain earlier, and I was like, I don't think there were like any out of fives really, or any out of tens in like 98, 99, or 97, 98. I don't think so. I think that came. It was soon to come. They were coming soon, but not yet.
Mhm.
I think you were the superscripts were out of 25. You had some one of ones like printing plates and stuff like that for sure as well. But I don't think the out of fives and the out of tens and all that stuff had happened yet. So this is one of the lower print run. Medano's for sure, and for a lot of other players, is one of the lower print run ones you're going to get in this era. There's only two in the winning Formula Platinum that have a lower print run than this, just two. So that's a toughie, for sure.
Mhm.
Oh, and I did ask. They did not have the run for the cup. I did inquire just to see, is apparently that had sold off. This one I like as well. This was another early 2000s. That's a nice patch. I like that one for that year. That's a good one. Just so we're clear, all the same seller. Just ridiculous stuff. And then this is the one that I showed off to Dave that I paid a not insignificant sum. This is a 99 2000 Upper Deck patch card, no stated print run, no odds because the previous versions of them were like 1 in 2500 packs or 1 in 7500 packs. I think for Series 2 the patches were 1 in 7500 packs. For some reason in Series 1 they didn't put any stated odds. I have no idea why. I genuinely don't know. It's just some weird anomaly for late 90s Upper Deck. But this one is nice because it's rare obviously, but it also has a 3-color patch. So if you're going to get a rare card like that, you want a 3-color patch like that. I'm guessing that's the All-Star patch because I don't remember that ever the orange ever being on the Medana one, but he definitely had an All-Star jersey that had a patch like that. For sure. But that's a good one. So that was my Saturday mail day. 2 envelopes.
Are you just going to get your checks routed to that seller then?
I might as well, just to save time. It would be pretty good, without question. So I'll just grab a comment from Paul here. I've changed my processing habits opposed to IG when the card goes and stands. Yeah, absolutely. I like putting when I get a mail day and I get a couple of cards. I don't want to just put all the cards on there at once. It's kind of fun to kind of space it out a little bit. So this patch will end up on Instagram, of course, over in the coming days. So will the winning Formula Platinum. But it's like it means for the beginning of next week, I'll have a couple of cards to put in there, and if anything new comes in, there'll be some new stuff as well. I'll mix a little bit with the old with the new. There's no rush. There's enough. If I just put a post a day with a couple of nice cards or a card here or there, why not? That's fun. May as well.
That's sort of what I do. I've got probably about 15, 20, maybe 25 pictures of some of that brodeur stuff and other stuff from maybe a month ago already, a month and a half. I just put, as you've seen, like 3, maybe in one shot. And I'll let that ride through the most of the week. And then by the end of the week, I'll maybe put another couple up. Because again, like you, I try to get the stories in there and inform people, and instead of just putting a blank picture and just being like, figure it out yourself. But I mean, it's fun.
There's no value to that in no context.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
when you can't see or you can't learn anything by reading something, the picture only is as good as a picture is.
Mm-hmm. There's some people who will never read the captions, and that's okay. It's not for them. It's for the folks that it's like, well, if you look at the Instagram long enough, you realize that no, usually I'll tell you what set it is. I'll tell you if it has a stated print run, if it has certain odds or something. I'll throw it in there. Why not? At least maybe if you didn't know already, there's a little bit of information. So I'm gonna grab this one from Vinny here. Yeah, the one with Garen is good. I think it was a good combination of. I think it was just a good combination of player selection, patch selection. They did all they put together a good. That's why I was happy to have those two as well. Those two were the least expensive cards in there, but I don't think I lost anything because there were 2 good patches and they were both out of 60, so they're not rare compared to some of the other ones. But those are not slouches either. those are pretty good cards as well. I can't complain about that.
No.
So I think Steve was just saying that they had some cards out of 5 in football for 97. So that makes sense. Yeah, I think the different sports took different time frames to get into the kind of print run category. I just don't remember. I have to really look back again and check, but I don't remember anything in hockey in those print runs until about 2000. Maybe 99, 2000 they started doing it, or maybe just after that, but it would have been right around there, to my recollection.
Because Fleer had the starting 9 in baseball in, I think, 98 or 99.
Yep.
There's like a trophy collection in football that was to 20. Bowman Chrome in 98 had the gold anniversary refractors numbered to 5 in baseball.
Yes, that's true.
I
No,
don't
you
know
know
if they
what?
did it
I
in football.
think Nay might be able to answer this because I remember that he had some Jonathan Chichus that were Bowman, and now I'm wondering if they had something similar to the anniversary ones because it was around that time period as well. Now, I now that I'm thinking about it from the Bowman one, maybe, but I know that like Medana wasn't in that. I think it was more of a prospect set, so I'm wondering
Yeah,
if they borrowed that numbering.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's possible. Like even with even with the collective experience that we have, sometimes there's stuff that like there were so many products back then. Like they were just releasing so much stuff. It's like no, we'll pick it up as we go along. It's like you have to sometimes have it in hand and be like, oh yeah, I remember this thing. You have to think back
Or
because I remember the boxes or the packs.
like the Donos Elite prime numbers, the
Mm-hmm.
varying degrees of serial numbered without people actually knowing, hey, this is really limited comparative to what the actual stamp serial number is, because they had like a system within the system to
Mm-hmm.
differentiate. So yeah, there's some lower numbered stuff, but again, it wasn't like a prominent thing like it is now where, oh, here's your mirror gold parallel number to 5, or like a Topps Chrome black refractor, that's number to 10, or a red to 5, or the Panini Prism Gold Prism to 10. It's not as well known or seen in every product like it is now back then. I mean, that was like if you weren't getting a 101, you got something number to 5. It really didn't matter who it was. If it was Tony Amonte, you're happy. Like, man, I can get rid of this to somebody because there's a Blackhawks collector out there. But
Well, it's
now if you
funny.
get
It's funny
somebody,
you mentioned Tony Amonte because there's a limited parallel I'm looking at, and I'm starting to look at picking up some of these players that I liked back then that I thought because I like the goal scorers. I like the guys that came out there and scored goals, even if they weren't playmakers or did the rest of it as well. But there's some of the limited inserts that I haven't seen the Medana in a long time, and it's just like you know what, I kind of want to have one of these so that I can see it for myself because I never had one. So it's like I still want an example. That's what I did with the Gold Impulse, and now Paul has that Gold Impulse Cujo, and he seems to be enjoying it. So I passed it along his way, and hopefully he's enjoying it. But it was nice to have it in hand and be like, okay, so this is what it looks like. This is what we're talking about because now if I see it next time, because I never had one in hand. So I was like, okay, at least I got to spend a little time looking at, okay, now I get the telltale exactly. Obviously, I knew design wise what it looked like, but it was different from actually having possession of one for at least a little while. It was good to have a sample, basically.
mm-hmm.
And there's
That's
some other series like that.
I've always said that too. Get something like Jeremy, I think, showed that Ziggy Palfy Atomic.
Yeah.
98, 99 Bowman's Best. I mean, if you haven't seen one of those in person, it's like, okay, atomic refractor, cracked ice, whatever. If you don't know what they look like in person, it's like, you get one in person, like, holy crap, this is really nice looking. And then if you're going for a Monte, Madonna, Brodeur, Ronick, whoever it is, you're like, okay, I know exactly what this looks like. Maybe that bumps it up on the list.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, I didn't realize it was this gorgeous. Or you're like, whatever, and it slides down. But again, once you get even just a sample in there, it doesn't have to be the best player. If you just find something for $10, it's numbered 100 and it's from 22 years ago.
Yeah.
That's limited.
There's some obscure ones that are kind of hidden away, and here's one I'll throw at some of you guys that are a little more obscure. Again, it would be one that I haven't picked up from Medano yet, but definitely I keep my eyes open, and maybe I'll ask the seller about this one because this one would be a little more under the radar, but maybe they've got it. If you remember UD Ovation, the standing ovation parallel, that one I think was out of 50.
Yep.
I think if memory serves me, that's a toughie too. Most people wouldn't think of that one because Ovation was kind of an obscure product. I don't remember if it was retail only. It was more obscure. I just remember it wasn't like a big product that people remember like fondly. No. But I think the standing ovation looked pretty cool. I felt like it was like a foil, like in the middle or something like that.
Like a holographic foil along with the name and then some other stuff. And it didn't stick around for, at least football-wise, it didn't stick around that long.
Exactly. But those are the types of products that tend to fall by the wayside and you forget about them. And then later you're looking for them and say, why is this so hard to find? Well, it was a bit of a more obscure product. And people didn't really like it when it came out. It wasn't really that popular. It looked kind of plain. But this parallel looks kind of cool, but now you can't find one.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just something to bear in mind. Sometimes going to the archive, you get so much extra by just doing some research. Go do some research, go some digging, because there's some hidden gems in there. I would still buy it. Back in the day, I was buying, maybe 10 years ago, I was buying the Upper Deck Quantums, the late 90s and early 2000s Upper Deck Quantums, but I was getting them for pennies on the dollar because people were throwing them into lots and stuff. And then you could go and turn them around and you could sell them for $80 or $90 or $100. Now, I don't think you get that much for them today. It depends on the player. Some players
Hmm.
maybe yes, but some players not so much. But they were some of them were a little more tougher to find because some of like the early 2000 ones, it's like it had the serial number on it, but it just looked kind of plain, but it had like a serial number on it, but it was quantum, and it was
Hmm.
like actually that's a rare card now. Try to find one for some of these players, and it's kind of tough. That's good to hear, Paul. I'm usually happy to see, especially if especially a person who actually collects the player or the team, then it's nice to see that they get their hands on it. And it was very easy to set something up with Paul because he saw it on the live stream. He reached out, we got the deal done, and off you go. And then it belongs in his collection more than it belongs in mine. So it works out. So real quick here, I'm just going to look something up. One thing I was going to mention with you. So actually, let's talk about this one thing, Dave. I'll get your opinion on this, and then I'll show off some other cards from the box since I've got it here with arm's reach. We might as well. Um, One of the things that I've noticed has been a lot more of a hot button topic lately. There have been some screw ups from Beckett grading services. Have you caught wind of much of this? A little bit.
I may have. I was on the other night with Brian, and they were talking a little about it. That's one of the things I don't follow as, and I should, but again, with so much going on in the hobby, only so many hours in the day. It's like as much as we want to consume every ounce of hobby content we can. That's what I've said too for the burnout. You want to have a couple other things sprinkled in your wish list or your like list just to sort of even everything out and not just have so much saturation of content. So the
Totally agree.
grading stuff I push off to the side because that's not really anything I try to really incorporate
Mhm.
deeply in my collection. I mean, if I'm buying vintage or something, I'd rather buy vintage graded, even if it's
I
just
think I
authentic.
think sight unseen, unless you can handle it,
Mhm.
I would almost always get it graded, especially for like a high dollar card. I
Yeah.
wouldn't buy a mantle at this point if it's not graded by one of the major services. I wouldn't
Hmm.
touch it. It's not worth it because there can be so much wrong with it, and you don't want to deal with that if you can avoid it,
No.
especially. But I agree with you. In terms of like for the most part, it hasn't been that interesting in a little while, and to be honest, it's been kind of quiet hobby wise. The biggest thing for
Mhm.
me is just waiting for the virtual expo to happen. I may be a little bit tapped. I may not be able to buy anything, but I'll still hang out. I'll still check it out. I want to see how they progress from year one to year two, because
Mhm.
now, sorry, from show number one to show two, because now that they've had done one, gotten the feedback, made some adjustments, now incorporating the Chicago dealers in as well. I kind of want to see how that goes. That's going to change things up a little bit. And I think it'll be very interesting because this is going to be a model going forward. Because it means, Dave, you can attend the expo just like I can. So you're not prevented, and it's free. You can go and wander the virtual shelves and hang out. And it's like having a live stream in these different rooms, in these different
Mhm.
booths. So you can hang out and chat, and you can do whatever. So even if you're not going to buy anything, you can still hang out. It doesn't hurt at
Well, that's
all.
where I saw you and Amit in that last day of the one in June, and then now got on Jeremy's stream, and we were like four people in there at a time. While we could sort of take a break and not have to really command the room, as it were, and just be like, okay, I've been on here 2 days. I just let me you guys talk amongst yourselves, and I'll sort of be here, sort of sorting or trying to make deals, get deals done. And I
Yeah.
liked it. I mean, that was. Do I love physical card shows? I love them.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
going and rooting through boxes and asking people and trying to strike up friendships or conversations or deals, whatnot. I love it. But if I can't do that right now, I saw there's a show in Dallas this weekend. I
Mhm.
know a lot of the YouTubers went down there, but that's not something I'm going to do. The
Yeah.
National or whenever the expo comes back to Toronto, those are things I want to do. I want to go to the big shows because at that point I can pretty much guarantee I'm going to find something I want or need there.
Mhm.
If I go to Dallas and there's like display cases of Luca 9.5s of everything, A, I can't afford it. B, I really don't want it. Those
Yeah.
aren't cards I want.
Yeah.
And with the virtual expo, I hope everybody learned that didn't that had gripes and complaints, but Jeremy didn't, Amit didn't. They
Mhm.
did the stuff right, the drop boxes and whatever the other. I don't know, Amit had photo bucket or something else,
Yeah.
but
They I think
do it that
Jeremy and
way
he
instead of
use
just showing
similar
something,
concept, but two different products. Yeah.
but just showing people sitting there scrolling through their phones on a live stream. Nobody, I'm not going to give you a minute of my time
Mhm.
if that's what you're doing. I mean, I don't need to get constantly hear, oh, I got cards, I got cards. I don't need the circus or the amusement park shiller. But I mean, I want to have people. You want to feel valuable to the dealer, not to the point where like they're groveling for your business, but you feel like, hey, just because I've got this card, I'm not 3 levels above you,
Mm-hmm.
because you're not looking at the Jordan PSA 9. You're looking for Mike Modano Pacific numbered parallels.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to be criticized or made to feel any less of a collector just because of that. So I'm hoping a lot of that changes up, and I know there's some courses or some informational stuff that Steve Menzie put out there with whoever else is putting it on from
Yeah.
the
Yeah, I think the big thing is that a lot of the dealers who want to make business now now understand there's a model to be
Mhm.
like, actually, you guys need to adjust a little bit because just staring down at your phone or whatever, not engaging with the chat at all, those are your potential clients, and making it easier for them to find stuff. Because to your point, um, one of our mutual associates on YouTube here, one of my mutual friends, but it's also someone you may know who has been on this show before, may have already shown at least a sneak preview of some of their wares, and there may be a dumb one there that you may already have, but it's a nice patch, so I'll pass it along to you. And then you do with that information as you will. But the point is, they took a nice picture, so at least you know it's there. And if you want
Mhm.
to make a deal on it, you can. And if you just want to window shop, you just did.
Mhm.
So it makes it really easy. You can window shop if you want to. You don't have to if you don't want to, and it gives you some options. Let me grab a couple of these comments here because there were a couple of good ones here just related to it. So real quick, the Boston Kid here says, "Will Chicago National happen this year?" Nobody knows yet. It's a timing. It's the portion of the calendar. It's not to put it on everybody, but it's how you guys do over the next couple of months. The answer to
Mhm.
your question is partially in your hands, partially in their hands, partially the people in Chicago's hands, the people of Illinois, the people around neighboring states. If you take care of business and you get in a position where you do, if a vaccine is developed, if it's available, if people can use it, if it helps, if it knocks down the number, if all of these things happen, sure. But otherwise, it's going to be really hard to crowd that many people into that kind of a space. And
Mhm.
there's a lot of people like international, like I'm not going to get on a plane to fly down to deal with the hassle, and then have to be like, all right, I don't know where any of y'all have been. Nothing personal, but I don't know where any of y'all has been. I don't want to have to walk in there with a biosuit just to be on the safe side. Like that's not a good experience that I want to
No.
do. I don't need to do that. Now when we can get cards on the internet all over the place, like look, would it be more interesting to go to check out a national? Yeah, of course, that'd be cool. But it's got to make sense.
Mhm.
It's kind of what we talked about a little bit on your stream. It's like, look, I got to make sure I take care of people in my neighborhood and also at home. I could live through it. They may not be able to, so I can't afford it. Can't do it.
Mhm.
Can't do it.
No.
Yeah. So let me just grab a couple of these comments here. So, yep, no, Jeremy, I think you did a good job with your booth. You set kind of the model that hopefully they start following because you and me learned very quickly. You picked up on it right away and made those adjustments. So Vinny here. Yep. Well, Vinny, if the time is right by 2022, I think we'll be all right. But by all means, come on down because we have the expo. We have the expo twice a year, and I think, like I said, I think the online one is going to become if we get back to regular expos, which we should at some point. I think the online one will be a supplement. It will allow us to
Mhm.
potentially have 4 shows a year, which means you can come down for 2 and then attend 2 virtually without having to leave your state. It's a pretty good deal. So you don't have to be. It doesn't force you. You can hang out from the comfort of your own house. That's not a bad deal at all. So yeah, no, Steve, definitely in your neck of the woods down there, you definitely had. It was a pretty good show, and I think Vinny already recommended, so perfect. I'm not shocked that they probably had a lot of attendance because a lot of them were starved, like they were super
Mhm.
starved. Um, so yeah, J Rod is just hoping. Yep, we'll see. I think a lot of us are looking towards it, but we're going to be paying attention. Hopefully, it would be nice to have the option to actually be able to give it some thought and be like, okay, can I book a vacation time? Can I make plans? Although I will say those hotel rooms are probably going to be expensive. It's going to
Oh
be,
yeah.
especially if you have to wait until the last. The problem, the uncertainty, is that okay? Let's say they are able to pull it off and they get to a state where they can do it safely. Awesome. How long is that going to take? Because the more last minute you have to do it, the higher the price is going to be for the tickets, for the plane tickets, and for the hotel.
Mhm.
And that's kind of rough. It's going to be tricky this year.
And I'm lucky. And again, I consider this a drivable situation. I'm about 12 hours from Chicago, 11, 12. So, I mean, for me, I go 8 hours to my brother in Wisconsin. He's about a half hour south of Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
For me, another 3 hours or whatever down to Chicago, 3.5. That's nothing. I mean, I've done St. Louis from here in a day, and that's a little over 12 hours. So I mean that's the fine part for me. But yeah, you gotta. I think it's about a month and a half or 2 months out. Dealers and vendors need to know what the hell is going on because it's like,
Yeah,
hey, we got tons of money wrapped up into flights, travel, and then hotels,
yeah,
plus the physical having the table at the show. You got to let us know what's going on. You can't just say a week before, sorry, and then everybody's reservations are already booked because the processing went through on the hotels or the Airbnbs or whatever. It's like, no, you got to be diligent, and that's going to be the thing. I just don't think here it's going to happen because people just, it's America. We want our freedom. No, just do something good. If we would have done 6 weeks in March to the end of April, just shut
Mhm.
everything down, we'd probably be good by now.
There's a reasonable chance you would have had a good shot at it because a lot of areas were far enough apart that it would have knocked the numbers down very quickly, and it probably would have set you up for better success.
Mm-hmm.
It would have required a full scale commitment, but it could have been done.
I
Now at
mean,
this stage, flipping the calendar is going to be very tricky.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. So kind of also, like I said, we don't want to put too much of a downer on it. We're just being realistic. We're just looking at what it is. But honestly,
Mm-hmm.
it's just a timing issue. Like in all honesty, even if everybody commits to it right now, it's like okay, good, that would be good. But then, how far in advance do you think you can make the call? Because the national guys have to be able to make the call. They can't do it 2 weeks out. They can't do it 4 weeks out. They gotta give. To your point, the dealers have to cart all their stuff. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, and it's our issue is you have it drivable. Chicago's
Mm-hmm.
probably drivable from where I am. Probably if you commit to it, it'd be more of a road trip kind of thing. Doable, but it's still a bit of a
Mm-hmm.
pain. But even still, someone who goes in, someone who goes down, who is a dealer, has to also take pounds and pounds and pounds of stuff, and then you got to try to figure it out, and that's a bit of a pain. So let me grab here a couple of comments here. So this one, new person to the channel, might be my younger brother. I just laugh. Um, so online as a supplement may exist for a while, just because I figure people will be a gun shy for the next year once. Yeah, I would say he's right, to the point of some people, because the Dallas show, and this plays into J Rod's comment here. The Dallas show was packed. So in America, maybe not. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe you could be in the middle of a full blown outbreak, and if you decide to give it a shot, some people would go anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then damn the torpedoes. Let's see what happens. So it's kind of again, you take your chances. I
Mm-hmm.
did see from the video footage that some people wore the masks a little bit more carefully. Some people had them, but it was like half not covering their face. So it was like, well, if you're not going to cover your face, you may as well not wear it. So
Yeah.
at that point, you're not really accomplishing anything. So here, let me
Yeah.
just check this one here.
Chin strap from an old helmet, but that's what I kept seeing
That's
quite a
basically
bit.
what it was, yeah. So not directly card related, but I heard some chatter from a few event runners for other things in GTA that are talking about having to adjust admission models, cost due to lower numbers expected. Yeah. In Canada, I would say more people are going to be more cautious, just because
Mm-hmm.
they're not interested. Because even now, the numbers have started to put it in contrast. The numbers have started to increase, just started to increase,
Mm-hmm.
and we've shifted. Like start effective Monday, in a lot of Ontario now, they're going to shift to what they call a red status, which is to say that they're going to, if you have to go somewhere, go do your stuff. Go to your groceries. Go to the pharmacy. Go get whatever if you need something.
Mm-hmm.
But like restaurants and stuff that were open a little bit more are going to be a little more restricted. They're going to be like, all right, takeout or uh, side service. The retailer I work for has already made arrangements like that previously when we were at the higher stage previously. So they're going to be like, so they've already said we're saying, yeah, we're going to shift back to that model, curbside. You
Mm-hmm.
order the thing ahead of time, pay ahead of time. We'll drop it off beside your car
Mm-hmm.
and take your stuff. That way, we don't come into contact with you. You don't come into contact with us. We're good. And I think but they're already kind of anticipating that. They see that in advance, so they're like, all right, let's make an adjustment. Let's tweak this. Let's tweak this a little bit. All right. Yeah. So Paul agrees with many ninjas. Again, may allegedly be related to me. Allegedly. Bless you, Dave. All right. So let me go Boston Kid here. Yeah, no, for sure. Well, I can't say amazing Boston Kid. It's just because like they really, really, really don't want to acknowledge stuff happens. They just don't want to acknowledge that they don't want to be infringed upon. And it becomes a stubbornness. Like, I don't care what reality is. I'm going to try to, like, force my way through it. So it's like, okay, well, give that a go. Again, we'll know in a couple of weeks, because if it turns out someone in Dallas was infected and infected a bunch of people, and a bunch of people come down with it, and they have some kind of consequence of it, if they get sick enough where it affects their health long term, or if they die from it, the Dallas, the Dallas showrunners are going to have a lot to answer for, because they're going to be like, so we got footage on YouTube of people not exactly following the rules. They're not really wearing the masks. So did you guys really do your diligence in actually housing this event? Because in theory, you could house this event. You could. It would be difficult, but you could do it. But if a bunch of people just like half-ass the actual work behind it, it's like, well, okay, now all you did was put a bunch of people in a room.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you really did. So yeah, real quick here. So Bobby, hey Bobby, how are you? Good evening. So yeah, numbers went up 4 times in Ontario. Yeah, comparatively. Now, mind you, we were lower numbers prior. We were doing pretty well, but obviously the spike is what they've been concerned about. So it's unfortunate. So here as well, doesn't sound too far fetched. Things are bound to trend lower for general admissions. Yeah, like I said though, I will make the point that I think in Canada this is true. They're gonna have a tough time running one of those shows here right now. Well, right now they wouldn't, but even if they're like at a slightly lower level, they would struggle to get a lot of people to go out, because a lot of us aren't going to take that shot. Here,
Yeah.
south of the border, party. It's siesta time. Let's do it. Let's have a beach party. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
Let's do it. Yeah. So Texas, 10K new cases per day now. I believe it. Sounds about right. So yeah, I think the long story short is we'll have to wait and see. We'll definitely be watching with interest. Like I said, I would love to go to a national. Chicago is a venue that I would prefer. I think it's a good venue. Even if we get back to normal, like Atlantic City, that's a hard pass for me. Like, it really is just a hard pass. No, thank you. I'll pass on that. Chicago, though, yeah. If things are right, I would definitely consider it. Why not? So I'll actually show you this, Dave. So just give everybody some background. A little bit earlier, we were talking about the graded thing, and I'll show you an example. Now, again, I'd like to see. This Instagram post was put up, and obviously other people have shared it. I believe it's accurate, but I'm not going to claim it as such. But I want to talk about this issue generally a little bit. So I think we'll get a chuckle out of this Instagram picture, though. So Dave, with your trained eye, can you tell me what you think is wrong with this situation? Can you analyze this for us? Break it down.
Well,
it's subtle. It's subtle, guy. It's subtle, Dave. You really have to look at this one. Look at it carefully.
If you look at the corners of the lower right, or, well, in retrospect, the upper left-hand corner of the card, a little whiting. Yeah, it's amazing for a company. And again, this could be any of the big 3 for here. I know KMA does a lot up there in Canada coffee. But for the big 3, if you ask most collectors, SCG, or SPC, PSA, BGX.
Yeah, for sure.
To get, I don't know, I'd say a top 3 card of all time.
I think in terms of let's say hobby notoriety, it's definitely up there without question. It's like we'll put it on the Mount Rushmore for sure. It's definitely like a big card.
To have that, and it's not a horizontal card, so you don't have that distinction of, either way is good for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love your comment, Paul. This is a good one. I agree with him. It's like this was the last one. It's like, all right, guys, we're off for the weekend. Oh, hold on. Send it off. I actually have an in-person story I'll share about this, but I just wanted to talk about this one first.
It's amazing. I mean, it's just and I don't see, when I was on the other day with B-Raw 6, he didn't mention anything about that. Mm-hmm. So I've got to direct him to that and be like, hey, one for a grading talk the other night that didn't come up. You can have part 2.
So this was on B-Roth's channel?
No, I don't remember it being brought up. So
but I'm saying, like, did you guys have a discussion on his channel?
Yeah, we had some grading discussion and some of the pricing, and then of course the normal stuff of the weight, the wait times, and then a lot with what is the upcharge? where let's say you send something in January or February, like that. I brought up the Randy Arozarena. Back then, he was a common.
Mm-hmm.
August, September into October. Certainly not a common player, at least value-wise. And then now you're getting upcharged for that because of PSA or whoever waiting, having this backlog. Their own problem, not ours. We sent them in. We, again, if you have time constraints that you can't meet, be transparent with us.
Thanks, Steve. That's what I was looking for. I just wanted to try to find it at the same time we were talking about it. No, that's perfect. So let
But
me answer
yeah,
this one as well for Boston Kid, because I'm usually pretty good at catching a lot of that, and I'm pretty sure I'm subscribed to B Roth. So I just wanted to double check if I totally missed it. I for some reason I didn't catch it. That's why I was curious. I was like, as soon as you said, it, I was like, so is it online? I didn't catch it. I'll check it out though. I'm interested in stuff like that. So yeah, so apparently it is. Now, and to be fair, Card Porn here has put up a couple different cards. I know some of the cards they've shown are legit because the real controversy. This is just silliness. Whether it is or it isn't, it is kind of indicative of the overarching problem. And the overarching problem has been that now Beckett right now is the current whipping boy because we've got examples. Now again, I don't know if this card is legit because I don't have it in hand. I haven't seen it. But I've definitely seen this make the rounds, and I haven't seen anybody deny that it's correct or, fact check it to be incorrect. So, but I know Beckett's made some mistakes. And right now they're the one we're catching. The big one is that there was a LeBron James fake BGS graded card. That was one that has recently made the rounds where there's been a bit of investigation, and I'll kind of back up here on this Instagram page because they've been focusing on it lately.
it was like a Prism Silver or something that.
Yeah, I want to see if I can find it here. It might be this one here was another one as well, and this was a fake Luka Doncic card, and they were able to pinpoint that the patent down here. So right now there's an inconsistency. So this will actually be educational for folks. I don't know if you can see that. If I can make it bigger, if you need to, but it says like PAT 629 blah blah blah. That's their patent number, but the fake doesn't have a period in it. So they actually blow it up. Here you go. This is a little better. So this is on the fake. So right now, this is what it looks like here. And then compare it to this one. It's got a little space. It's got a period. It's slightly different. So right now, they're trying to find these telltale signs, comparing some of these cards to try to find some ways. So right now, I will say, despite the silly name, Card Porn has actually put a couple of posts, again, utilizing the description and the text to actually give some information. And they're really kind of calling out Beckett Grading Services because it's like, hey, we're finding this stuff that's in your slabs where people are making fakes using your slabs, which is a problem because it means possibly that they figured out how to replicate your slabs. Not perfectly. Obviously, some mistakes are being made. And I'll see if I can find the LeBron for our reference later. But like they compare the two side by side. And the differences are very slight in the way the holder looks and the way the label looks and these telltale signs. But the problem is, it goes down to market confidence. If you don't believe the graded card's legit, or you believe the graded company is incompetent and can't tell the difference between one thing and another, or encapsulates a card upside down, there are questions. The reason I wanted to bring this up was twofold. Number one, obviously, this is a thing that's now kind of taken some legs the last week or so. So the last couple of days especially. And I'll definitely check out that conversation with you and B. Roth because I'm interested in hearing kind of how that went down. But I wanted to give you guys a real life example. And I've mentioned it on my channel before, but I'll give you a reminder. I'll give you a little bit of a reminder. So real quick, I want to show you two cards. Okay. So these are both BVG graded. So it was the vintage version. It's going to be a little hard to see, but I'll try to show you enough so that you can see the difference. Okay. So this one is a 1955 Bowman Mickey Mantle. You can more or less make it out. It's you can pretty much tell. So that's a 55 Bowman Mickey Mantle. Okay. Now this label is an authentic altered holder, which they use. They use that type of label. This is from my own submission. This was a couple of years ago, so I did it through BVG at that time. Okay. Now I'm going to try to put it to the screen. Hopefully you can read it. Can you read me the label? What the label says?
No, I can't.
Okay. Yeah, unfortunately it's a little bit small. Okay, I'll read it to you. So this one here says 1959 Topps Mickey Mantle. So this is encapsulated. This is my card. On a related note, here's a 1959 Topps Mickey Mantle. Care to guess what it says on the label?
I'm hoping 1959 tops Mickey Mantle.
No, this is 1955 Bowman Mickey Mantle according to BVG. So this is a 1955 Bowman, and this is a 1959 tops. They swapped the labels. Same submission, same order, consecutive numbers because I brought them in at the same time. I had a stack of different vintage cards I sent in. The most egregious, and I don't have the card anymore because I subsequently switched it to a PSA holder. I actually sent it in the holder and everything, and I just said just put it in a new holder. I sent it to PSA and go just take this, encapsulate it, and put it in the holder. The most egregious was they took my 55 tops Sandy Koufax and my 56 tops Mickey Mantle, swapped the labels, and I was like, this is the only 1956 tops Mickey Mantle that looks like a 1955 tops Sandy Koufax rookie. eBay 101 #invest. And I was like, and when I got it back, they got a couple right in the order, which is to say they didn't flip every single label, but they flipped most of the cards in the holder. And I'm like, what Muppet did you hire that can't read the name on the label? Who checked this before you sent it to me? And you charged me for this junk.
Yeah.
I was like, so this was a couple of years ago. So it's not like Beckett's never done this before. It's not, no. By the way, my intention is not to pick on Beckett. I keep these cards because I'm too lazy to swap them out right now. But at some point, I'll put them in. If I go send them back in, I'll get them encapsulated again. But I'll get them done with PSA because after this, I was like, I'm not giving you guys any more money. You can't. This is not a 1955 Bowman. This is not a 1959 tops. Look it up. Google it. Idiots. So I wasn't terribly shocked when I saw a couple of these things recently with Beckett. I was like, yes. Questions? Got questions? Market leader, guys. Market leader. PSA is obviously the market leader, but they're one of the big three. SGC has had its own faults as well. Mm-hmm. So let me grab a couple of these comments here. So yeah, fonts just a little different. There are probably going to be some inconsistencies with the fake ones. Again, we got to see. It's early days. They're starting to find examples. As they find more examples, it'll get easier to identify what some of these telltale signs are. But it is interesting now that we're doing. So we'll do J-Rod here. So just J-Rod saying, a couple of weeks ago there was talk of a new company that would grade graded cards. We all laughed. Yeah, well, I don't think J-Rod it's going to fix. I would love to see if Mike Baker Authenticated would actually be like, so it's not that good or bad for the grade, it's that you completely mislabeled the card. Or the card is upside down, bro. Could you imagine the sticker for that? That'd be funny. That'd be great. So I just wanted to make sure people saw, like, this is real cards in my hand. I sent these in myself. I can testify. Beckett has had its struggles in the past, and I experienced them firsthand.
And I've heard, and I don't know how far along in the game they are, but it's that whoever did the grading comics.
Mm-hmm. Yep, Bobby's got that one here.
Okay.
Yeah. So CGC and the coming to graded cards. Let's actually talk about this for a second. We can play this off of kind of what we do. I think their impact is going to be interesting because they've got some expertise. They definitely have some experience because they've done the comic end of it. I have to see what their final holder looks like because if they just borrow the CGC holder, I'm not a big fan of it. No. I think the holders. And by the way, people would be like, "Oh, who cares about that?" No, the aesthetics do matter. For some people, the Beckett holders aren't great because they're kind of bulky. Mm-hmm. The PSA ones are a little bit more streamlined and they fit. The SGC ones have a certain classy look with the edge. But again, SGC's shot itself in the foot too. Let's be fair. They've done this to themselves. CGC, though, if they can establish a certain amount of credibility, and I always I repeat this just so people don't forget, PSA is not infallible. We're picking on BGS right now because they've got some really high-profile screw-ups. Really high profile. But, and again, real life examples that you can find. But the reality is the very first PSA card that was ever graded was a trim card. So it's not like there haven't been questions about PSA. It's not, and again, there's always going to be some questions because people are fallible. They can screw up. But there are scripts that are avoidable. You can put the right label on the right card. Stuff like that, I feel, is like the bare minimum that I should be willing, or, putting the card in correctly oriented. I feel like at the bare minimum, it is reasonable for me to expect this for the money you are charging. Is that fair, Dave?
Those would be the first two that I normally you wouldn't even think of. Be like, okay, quality control. You label the card correctly and you put it where I can look at it like I'm looking at it like I want to look at it, or any collector does. I don't want it backwards or missing the flip. It's just like I want to see that. I want to see no flip in there.
Mm-hmm.
And the card, like whatever, it won't matter if it's backwards or forwards. There's no flip, but there's no flip in that holder. Like that's the next mountain to climb for any of these companies. I mean, I know Beckett's going to be the first in line.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully they get to the top of the mountain first, because they usually do.
Yeah, exactly. No, I get it. So let me grab a couple of these here. So just Jeremy says, yeah, no, I agree. The timing on CGC to come out right now is right, because the other ones have all taken hits. The thing is, being the new kid on the block has an advantage now, where if they're sufficiently capitalized, which I think they are, I think with CGC they've done well enough. They're probably capitalized enough to be able to advertise it. That'll be a good question. But and if they put enough people in with the credibility, that could help. But we have to bear in mind, as soon as they come in, I promise you they'll make some mistakes. And all of them are going to get called out. So any new entrant in there has to take advantage, has to understand that you'd better be squeaky clean. If you can get a track record for a little while being super squeaky clean, basically you can't afford any of this type. You can't mislabel a very obvious card of a high-profile player. That would be bad. And you better not get caught with grading a reprint or grading something wrong. Like, you have to be very, very careful. So let me grab a couple of these here as well, just because there's a couple. Yeah, no, Patrick, I agree with you. The thing is, at the time that I got it, BVG was still, I wouldn't say relatively new, but they were newer. So they still had, you trust me, at the time you could have done okay with some of the BVG slabs if you were selling them. And they were the ones who were there who were taking the submissions more easily. PSA was as well, but you still had to go through and join through the collector's thing. Now, mind you, for the Toronto Card Show, Platinum Promotions, which is one of the dealers there, they do what they call PSA Canada. So they take in bulk submissions. So I've started working with them the last couple of expos, and they've been really good with me. So they're kind of easy to work with. So for that perspective, it makes it a lot easier to submit the cards, and they help you make sure everything's filled out right. It gets sent in. And sometimes the guy will even call me, just be like, hey, there's going to be a bit of delay. Now, those were in the old days when the PSA delay was a little more unusual. It wasn't as big a problem. But literally, he called me in the middle of the afternoon just to be like, hey, by the way, it's going to be a couple extra days. We're coming up on the holidays. Do you want me to just send it to you first thing in the new year and miss the holiday rush? And I was like, sure. Sent it. Got it within a couple of days after. We were good to go. So it's good customer service when somebody's doing that in the middle. So if you get somebody who's good that you can submit through, that is helpful. So here, I'll let Jeremy have his plug here as well. So he says he's going to be hosting a panel at the Virtual Expo with CSG, their subsidiary, and they asked him to gather questions. So I think that's very good. Yep, no, I agree with you. Just going to skip through these couple real quick here. It kind of is now. I won't disagree with you because they've hurt their own credibility. And to Steve's point, because they have had lack of quality control, that hurts market acceptance. Market acceptance hurts price, which means less people use them, which means now it's been de-emphasized by Beckett themselves because they shot themselves in the face. But all the grading companies could do that. If they screw up enough times with enough high-profile screw-ups, PSA could go down if they did that enough times. Now, they're big enough that they've had something, and one call-out I'll give, there was a video by Carter talking about some of the financial documents where PSA was talking about its business and also talking about its million card backlog. I would direct you guys to check that out because some of those points that he researched in there are actually really important. Because for PSA, having a million card backlog isn't necessarily a bad thing. Which should concern you as a submitter because it's like, well, I want to get my cards. But for PSA standpoint, and I understand why they did it, it's an accounting thing. Having that means you automatically have business. So for accounting purposes, they don't count the money in until they actually grade the cards or take them in or process them. Which means technically they've got all this business, a million cards worth of business, that they can kind of dole out slowly over time so that even if things get lean and submissions slow down, they technically are still submitting cards and generating more revenue, so it looks good on the books. Mm-hmm. I'm giving a really short synopsis version of it. He explains it very well, but that's the gist of it, which doesn't shock me. That's an accounting trick. Mm-hmm. But it's not to your benefit. You should just be aware of it, though, as a submitter. So right here, didn't CGS put out examples of their holders? I think they did, Vinny, but I think the examples I saw looked a lot like the comic ones, but obviously scaled down to cards. I'm hoping that's not what they go with because it's a pretty ugly holder. I understand what they're talking about, but I hope not. Yeah, comics are allowed to be clean and pressed. Yes, that would be funny. I would love that, Bobby. So he says comics are allowed to be clean and pressed. So how will they come to the standard of card grading where alterations are frowned upon in this establishment? That'd be great. It's like, oh well, the corner was just smoothed. You think that'll go over? That's preservation, Dave. any thoughts on that though? Jokes aside.
For me, if I had something, let's say I collected Mahomes, that was my guy.
Yeah.
If I pulled a Prism Silver, and again, this is always subjective because I don't even and moral value possibly, but it's more or less transparency. Let's say, hey,
Yes.
I died suddenly. I'd have to have something notated in, hey, if you sell this Mahomes, let them know I cleaned it with whatever. There was a slight scratch. It's scuffed out or it's nice now. It came back a 10, but notate that because if I sold it, I would want to be told of that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But a lot of people don't because this money is just, and again, I know the hobby isn't the biggest thing with money going in and out, but it has jumped in the last couple of years where you have tons of new people in. That's why you're seeing a lot of these counterfeit things because they see that opportunity for money, and they see a quick opportunity for money. So that'd be something I'd want to be made known of. I want to have some sense of truth and transparency from collector to collector. Like, hey, Carlos, I got this, whatever, 48 Bowman Campanella. You're going for the set or a registry. It had a worst crease in there. I put it in Encyclopedia Britannica for 2 years. For 1 year, I sat on it for every dinner, so now the crease isn't as noticeable. It's still creased, but I mean,
and that's a thing somebody could do, like stuff like that. You can do it.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. It's always going to be up to whoever buys it, how that's going to play into if you buy it, if you don't buy it. Price and transparency. Maybe the transparency you don't care. Like, whatever. If I can get a good deal and I can flip it, it's off my conscience. But for me, that's something as big as a dick as I come off on my channel. I want to have
Dave. This stream is full of only nice people. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, it was Friday the 13th the other day, so I mean, we're within a little bubble there. But it's just the communication between seller, buyer, collector, whoever, that's huge. So I mean, if you're hiding something, I'm not too keen on that. No matter what it is. I mean, if the corner was dog-eared on the back, and I mean you did the book thing or whatever and pressed it out, and it looks nice, but I mean it's still that's the way it was. I want to know that. It shouldn't cost me an extra $600 for an old vintage card because that little corner's back in play. If I'm looking at a vintage card, I'm looking at centering, color, and paper loss.
Yeah.
I'm not looking really at anything else. Pinholes. I mean, I don't know who had it, but a lot of the older cards were put on like a cork board or whatever in some kid's room. Because
I used the example of the turkey red cabinet cards, those ones. Because those ones, now I talked about those as a value proposition. I say if you're a fan of the vintage, you can get some awesome looking turkey reds with pinholes in them. And if you know they're going to be poor condition, but they're going to look phenomenal. And they're going to be nice centerpieces for the collection, but you can get them for a nice discount compared to if that pinhole didn't exist and it was the rest of it looked the same, you'd pay thousands of dollars. Well, maybe you pay $1,000 or a couple of $100 comparatively, much cheaper.
But I like to know if it's something like that. I want to know because again, a lot of the times we won't know the history of the card. We don't know that you pulled it, you sold it to Amit, Amit sold it to Jeremy, Jeremy sold it to Steve Quincy.
Mhm.
He sold it to somebody else, then I'm getting it now. I don't know
Mhm.
that circumnavigation or whatever happened with the card. I just know that I've got it from this person now. So I mean, you can only do so much. I'd rather know if something was tinkered with on the card, though.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the reason I don't like that some of the so like PSA now, unless you specify, PSA will send back certain cards like min size requirement or whatever, but they'll
Mm-hmm.
send it back like in a card saver with the
Yep.
sticker on it, and it's like cool. I take off the sticker and I can resubmit it. Now, if you put it inside of a holder and it says, we believe it's trimmed, I don't, you wouldn't label it like that, but you basically
Mm-hmm.
to that something to that effect. I can then decide if I disagree, I want to crack it out and redo it. But at the bare minimum, if I then sell it as is, the potential buyer has it clearly labeled. So at least you're giving me again. I bought the Gordie Howe 54 tops card, knowing it's trimmed,
Mm-hmm.
but it says altered right on the front of the card. So it's like I'm not hiding it from anybody. It's right on the label,
Mm-hmm.
in black and white, literally. So it's like right there, as clear as can be. So if another seller goes down the line, well, it says right on it. You want to look up the serial number? It's going to say altered
Mm-hmm.
or authentic. So it's like it is an authentic card, but it is not. Did not get assigned a grade because of most likely trimming, because I can see it in the corner, in the edges. So you have to bear that in mind. To your point, the disclosure is the most important piece. The problem is as soon as we take it out of a holder, I know some folks like it, and I'll address one of the comments here that mentions that. The problem is as soon as they take it out of the holder, now I'm using your judgment as a collector. Now, if you
Mm-hmm.
have years of experience in judgment, you can probably figure it out. You're going to know when something's off.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of collectors don't have that savvy. So for them, they would be scared, and I don't blame them. I
No.
understand. I understand. So let me grab a couple of these here. So Patrick says, going to take a couple of years for a new grading company to gain the trust. Yes. So at first, so let's play this out for a second. Let's just talk through this a little bit, and I'll grab a couple of these other comments that are related as well. So the CGC1 or CSG or whatever they call themselves right now, I'll figure it out as we go along. But okay, so they do it. But at first, they don't get to grade the Patrick Mahomes, RPA rookies. They don't get to grade the high-end LeBrons. They don't get the Jordan rookies. They don't get the Gretzky rookies. They get like the third liner rookie, or they
Mm-hmm.
get they get some cards, but they don't get like anything of super high value. Are they going to be a player in the market right away? No, probably not. They're going to need basically someone with high volume, like a dealer or an auction house or something, to use them with volume and with some high end cards. And like I said, if the holder that I saw is the holder they're going with out of the blocks, I see a high end card on that holder. I understand that there are Beckett graders in there, but mind you, Beckett's the same one who couldn't label the thing properly. So I don't know if that helps you or hurts you. Like that might not be the answer to your question. But again, somebody has to be the first to take the dive, and it's probably going to be a dealer. It's probably going to be a dealer who already has some credibility. And if you're one of those dealers and you're already dealing with PSA and maybe BGS you don't want to deal with, whatever, or SGC or whatever the case may be. So SGC for vintage, PSA for everything else. What do you need a third player for?
Mm-hmm.
You got to convince somebody with some credibility to be the first. And then once enough volume is out in the market, it'll help. So Jeremy's just making the point here. They're well positioned to break into the hobby. They are and they aren't, for the reasons that I outlined. Do they have the people potentially in place? Yes. And the second sentence is the key point here. How quickly we as collectors buy in doesn't matter. If we do not... I know, Jeremy, I'm just teasing. I'm talking about BGS in general. Their quality control and some of the grading has also been a little questionable. I have examples of that too, but I'm joking about the labeling. Anyway, the second sentence though is the key one here. How quickly we as collectors buy in? Well, outside of annoyance with the other graders, what is our incentive to buy in? I'm being serious. Like, what's our incentive to buy in aside from frustration with the other graders? I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them. They could very well be very good. But if I don't like the look of the label holder, if I don't like the look of the holder, I don't like the look of the label. Right now, they don't have any of the big high-profile cards graded. They may very well quickly. They may be more affordable. But you know what's affordable too? KSA.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean that people want to use KSA? People do. Does that mean KSA gets good money for the card? Not really.
That's going to be a
KSA is
big,
cheap. Yeah.
What the secondary market for a lot of us that, let's say you're like, man, I like that holder. They revamp it.
Yeah.
Man, I want to get some of my Madonna stuff in there. Okay, that's great, but you're not selling it.
Hmm.
If the people like, oh, I need a Dwayne Wade tops, a Carmelo, a LeBron tops, I want to get those not super huge rookies, but they're some decent rookies. You want to get them. How is that secondary market going to treat them?
Hmm. Yeah.
That
There's a
that'll be
good point
that'll
here.
be
There's a good point here that Vintage Oddball Cards is making that I'm going to get to in 2 seconds. I just want to hit on it as well. So Paul just says SGC was well positioned in May. Yep. And I will say though, I can't give him too much credit, Paul, only because yeah, he fell on his sword, but at the same time, he brought it on himself and didn't anticipate that the volume would go up almost immediately because PSA was struggling. They were backlogged and it was getting worse and worse. Anybody who stepped up and said, "Oh yeah, we can handle it," well then people gave it a go,
yeah.
and they had a lot of YouTubers and things were pushing them right around that time because they were like, "Look, I'm getting faster returns," which they were, which was true. It was accurate, and the holders look cool and all that, so the tuxedo and all that. These are not untrue things. These are subjective things. Objective is that it was getting back faster, and it was. Subjective is, oh, I like the way the holder looks. That's an opinion, and I don't disagree with them. But that was the problem. It's like, yeah. So for the first little while, it worked for some people, and then as soon as the volume started coming in, all of a sudden those wait times got longer and longer and longer, and so all of a sudden it wasn't exciting anymore. So Vinny says, yeah, credible and affordable, and that's the key. What the pricing model is and what it. But again, somebody has to take the dive. Now this is taking the Vintage Oddball Cards comment. He goes, "What type of collector is going to go?" And that's perfect, awesome. The thing is, I'm not disagreeing with this, and I'm not steering anybody away. If you want to check them out, I would recommend if you want to really do your diligence, try them out, by all means. But if the flippers stay away, then you're not going to get enough volume. Then the market doesn't accept it. Then it fails. It dies on the vine. So I totally get his point, 100% get his point, and I like his channel. So check out Vintage Oddball Cards if you haven't already. He's got some great videos. But the only point I'm making is if it's only collectors, the company dies on the vine. It needs both. You do need the high volume flippers to make money in the long run. PSA has been successful because they make money.
Mm-hmm.
It's not enough to have the hardcore collectors. I'll go back to the whole numismatic thing from a long time ago that I like to use from time to time as reference because they did it years and years and years back. The first certification was not encapsulated. The first certification was basically a certificate, and it was the American Numismatic Association, a collectors group that did the early certifications. And they didn't encapsulate because they didn't have that technology. They didn't even think to do that. Back then, they took a high-res picture of your coin, did a certificate explaining where condition elements were, but really their main focus was to authenticate. They weren't there to give you a grade. They were there to authenticate and give you some key identifiers so that if somebody tried to swap your coin out, you would know what your coin was and be able to compare it to another one and realize, no, that's mine. That's all it was. It did okay, but it didn't do volume. It wasn't until encapsulation came in, PCGS showed up, who owns PSA. The same parent company owns both of them. They came in and they said, oh, we can do volume. We can start increasing the prices that you guys get, and we'll seal them in these ultrasonically sealed holders. This was back in the mid 1980s. They predate PSA by about half a decade. So they're already doing that. By the time PSA showed up, they took the same model to sports card. It was no longer about just authentication. It was authentication and grading. Why? Well, a PSA 10 is worth more than a PSA 1. Why do we care? Money. So to Vintage Oddball's point, like, yeah, if you want it as a collector, put in whatever you want. If you want it as a collector, you could develop your own holder and just put it in. Call it, the Carlos or Dave holder and just do it yourself. Now, the market is not going to give any extra credence to it, most likely, but you can do whatever you wish. It can be a glorified holder for you. And if it's cheap enough, why not? It's a step up from a top loader. Go for it. From a one touch. But the point is that if eventually you do want to resell, though, it has to have some secondary market value. Otherwise, then you are simply doing it for the holder and for your own purposes, which is fine. You can do that. That's cool. But if the flippers do stay away, then that's actually not what they want. They're not going to advertise, oh, we want the flippers. They're going to be like, yeah, could you do business with us too? Because we want your money also. Your money spends the same as the collector's does. It makes no difference. So let me just grab here Vinny as well. I was okay with it for a long time, Vinny, but I will say that their grading is wildly inconsistent. Like, it's just, forget about the secondary market value, forget about everything. The grading is inconsistent, which has also hurt the secondary market value. If I don't believe that your grade is legit, if I see that you have a 10 and I think it's an 8 at best, and I consistently see cards like that, I'm going to price it accordingly. For a seller, then they're going to be like, oh, well then why do I want KSA graded cards? They actually make less money than an equivalent card, not even like a percentage, like half. Like my God, just
Yeah.
terrible. So it's a combination of that. And to Jeremy's point here, the slabs are no good. Like they look
Yes.
like yeah, they look like knockoff BGS. It's terrible.
And something
So
about the side of them too. I've heard that from you guys that they can slip out. You can remove cards possibly.
you probably could. You probably could. You know what, Dave? Let's do something because I kind of want to like when we have a conversation like this. I actually want to give some useful information or be able to give a reference. That's why I had fun with the whole thing here. Tell you what, if you could can you actually see the chat at all in your window or no? Because I did have it set so theoretically you should be able to see it. I don't know if you can or not. You have to tell me.
Yeah, I didn't see the comments, but then it gets away from me seeing you. But that's all right.
No,
I
no, that's
mean,
okay. That's okay. But what I'll say is, can you keep the folks entertained for about 1 minute? I will
okay.
actually go grab one of the old KSA. I'm going to grab one of the old KSA holders and one of the quote unquote more recent ones. It's still old, but not the most recent one. But I actually can show you guys a little comparison of what they look like, and I'll bring it with the PSAs just so we can do a comparison. Give me 30 seconds. I'll be right back.
Okay. The other thing with the new grading company that grades the comics, if they start off, and again, I know they're not new graders, but if they are new to grading cards, transparency and taking responsibility. Let's say they get the glut of, for whatever reason, they get the glut of cards coming in to grade instead of just being like, whatever, your 1 month order, your the economy or whatever express 5 day. Now that's a month and a half, and nobody cares. Nobody gives even like vouchers for people that are waiting. You've got basically cards that we were hoping to get back within a reasonable amount of time, and now you're 7 months, 8 months down the line, stuff starting to come back. But that card in January, February, March that I wanted to get rid of now doesn't have the value it used to have, and that's because of whatever problems at PSA, BGS. You couldn't fix it. Why am I going to go back when you just sort of say, screw you guys, it doesn't matter. It's you. You want to keep coming back to us because guess what? That card's more valuable with our little flip on there. Like, well, have somebody on customer service email you and say, hey, we're running far behind. You probably know this. We're sorry. Here's like vouchers for whatever. We're trying. You just have to have a better business model instead of just taking cards and people just being up in arms right now about not getting their cards, because that's insanity when you have something that's 8, 9, 10 months out. You wouldn't do that basically in any other business, and if you did, you would be out of business.
Yep,
So
no,
I
I
don't
agree
know.
with you.
It's just it. I get where people want cards. I've got stuff and again, like I said, it's not a big part of my collection.
Mhm.
I've got stuff I'd like to grade just to have it, some older vintage stuff, maybe a couple of Josh Johnson 101s, like a super frac, just to have it protected a little better. That's it.
I think for some of the high end cards, like some of my high end Medanos, I would probably put them in a holder for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless if they've got a scratch on it or something, like the Star Quest Gold, it's got a scratch
Mm-hmm.
on it. It would get a lower grade. I would still want it encapsulated because I would totally use that. So let me show a kind of an example. So this is KSA. So for Paul's benefit and for some folks, some of you Canadian may remember these, but it's been a couple of years since they used this. This is one of the old holders. So this here is a KSA 10 Medano that I submitted back in the day to Toronto Expo. I tried them out. The holder itself, if you look, it's actually kind of a baby PSA holder, if you really look
Mm-hmm.
at it. So conceptually, they did it, but it's obviously a little bit smaller. But you can see the label, it's kind of inspired by.
Mm-hmm.
It's got very much a similar type look. It's a little busier, but you can see that. And then on the back, that's it. It's like it doesn't have any kind of barcode, serial number, whatever. You could just produce these en masse. And then at some point, they decided to make a switch. So first, it looked like a baby PSA holder, right? This is a later iteration. Now, what does it look like to you? Anybody want to take a stab?
Doesn't look like a magazine type of one at all. Like a it's not close.
So basically, they went from being like a knockoff PSA holder to being a knockoff BGS holder. Squared it off and did the whole thing. And now at least they got a barcode, but the barcode looks like it was printed on a dot matrix printer. And I don't think you could scan this thing on your best day. Now this was done. This was done at the show. They did it back then. Now the one thing that I thought was good is at least they labeled it, but you can see the fonts are all over the place. Like look at that. Like what are you supposed to do with that? What does mint plus mean? A nine is a mint. Like seriously, guys, what the heck? So yeah, like I said, I have them in my collection because I wanted the card in the collection, so I bought the card. But it's like it is what it is. So I have some like I said, I have some old school examples of those ones. I can't remember. I feel like they updated the KSA holder one more time, but those are two older versions of it. But concept wise, it's about the same. That's really what it is here. So let's just take a look. Yeah, so I'm just going to grab some comments from Jeremy here as well. Yeah, so can't remember. So let's go back from here. He said worse in the business. Yeah, the thing is, it does have a little bit of that. For the jersey card, not so bad. For the really old one, not so bad because it was already kind of tight. So it's not like there's a lot of room for there to be much shaking around. But I would say for the newer ones, on a normal thickness card, yeah, there's a good chance it'll rattle around. So CSG hired two of Beckett's experienced graders, so they have as much grading experience. Yeah. Wondering how those old school graders were not involved from their habits developed at Beckett, both good and bad. That's fair. It's a reasonable comment to make. I want to see high-res images. Yeah. Here's the truth: is it's hard to grade inside of a holder, but if you can see the card in person, at least you can take a shot. If you see the centering's way off, if you see like a corner's dented and it says 10, well, then you might not want to take it too seriously. But that's how you would want to do it. Will they implement the same system standards? Will they be better? Time will tell. Yep, agreed with you. Yeah, fell 2 graded points every time. Yeah, that's been about my experience. So if you see 10, probably assume it's an 8. And probably... Now, here's the thing. I'm not telling you you can't buy a card, but then assume it's 2 grades lower. And pay appropriate pricing. And maybe knock it down just a little. Try to get a deal. So if you see a 10, try to look for the price of an 8 and try to knock a couple of bucks off that. Just to be on the safe side. Just to be on the safe side. Absolutely, Bobby. Yeah, they went kind of, they tried to make it look a little bit more like a Beckett. Second, I've seen most of them search. I only go when we're searching for something. Yeah. The shame is that there are some nice hockey cards that do end up in these KSA holders because you're mostly going to see these in Canada. You're not really going to see a lot of them made stateside because, like, why? It feels regional. And that's not the end of the world. Like, it's not a crime to be regional. All these American ones are American regional, but we use them anyway. But it's because you had enough. But it goes back to my original point. Enough volume where the market accepts it. It could be a Scandinavian grader, but if there are millions of graded ones and the grading is consistent and the pricing's fair and all that, do we really care? Like, do we care? I don't. If the pricing's consistent and you get the secondary market and all that is in place. We'll use whoever. It's like competition-wise, it's hard to crack that market now. When technically you feel like you got a big 3, you're trying to get somebody cracking in to be number 4. Because you've got MNT in Canada who's giving it a shot. I don't think they're going to get too far. They'll try, I'm sure. And they've got some stuff out there. But there were some other ones. GAI tried some years ago, and I remember seeing those slabs around. I don't know if they got very far. Last one I was looking at was Line, so about a 7. That's right. Being the same if it avoid the pitfalls of having different service levels. I would be very shocked. I haven't seen too much about that, Dave. I would be shocked if they got away from the service level model because it's kind of a moneymaker. It's theoretically, like if we're being honest, theoretically, the job of grading is the same, whether it's a $10 card or a $50,000 card. The argument they would make is, oh, we'll treat the $50,000 card better. You will wear the gloves and walk it from tray to tray by hand. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. I don't know. But theoretically, that's the idea, that they would treat it a little more carefully. Well, I would prefer if you treated all my cards carefully that I send to you and pay money to you for. Regardless of price level, because maybe a $100 card is a big card for me.
Mm-hmm.
And if it is, and I spend another $30 to get it graded, well, I kind of would like to have the I kind of would like it to treat it with some some respect and not just chuck it around, because the implication, I understand their point. The implication is almost like, oh well, if it's a lower end card, we'll just like chuck it around the office and see what happens. It's like, why did it come back a 5? Wait, why is there a dent here that wasn't there before? What happened? This isn't the card I sent in.
Well, it's
Gotta
like if you
compare.
sell a car, like a auto dealership, if you want the person to come back to you, they're not going to buy the 2021 Hummer. They're going to look for something in their price range. You treat them well, they're going to keep coming back. No matter you got $5,000 to spend or $100,000 to spend.
Mm-hmm.
The customer service, that's where people in a lot of areas just it lacks because of either arrogance, patience, or people just don't care.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with that. The the issue that they're going to I want to try to phrase this correctly, so I'm trying to be a little careful how I want to position this. So let me answer. Let me put it this way: when you're talking about the third party graders, they're in a position where they've been given the market has given them the importance. The secondary market prices have given them the importance,
Mm-hmm.
and there is a necessity for some cards. We talked about vintage already. I would hesitate to buy raw vintage without being able to handle it first, or without a great return policy, because there's a good chance I'll likely need to return a bunch of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I'm relying on your grading ability, maybe your grading eye is good. If your grading eye is consistent, if I know your grading eye is good and I buy from you constantly and I am always doing business with you, I'm probably more inclined to accept your judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Because then when I get it back, it's like, yep, no, every time Dave says it's near mint, it's right around my definition near mint. We're aligned. Great. Then we're good.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just keep doing business with you. But if you want to be able to do business with multiple dealers where you have different grading standards, so as soon as you do raw, now I'm at the mercy of your grading standard. Okay, what does near mint mean to you? How important is centering? Does the registration of the picture come into account or not? If the answer is no, I could have a sharp corners, well-centered card that's completely off register. It looks ugly. I can't accept it.
Mm-hmm.
And your argument would be like, no, it's technically near mint. It's like, yeah, but I value the register as part of the grading. Or maybe the centering is really a deal breaker for me and you give me something that's borderline miscut. But sharp edges, sharp corners, good registration. But it's borderline miscut. We're going to have a debate about grading standard at that point, but
Mm-hmm.
you might not be wrong. Technically, you might be close. But that's just the way it is.
And there again,
And
there's the communication with you and the dealer, whoever. Just hey, say this looks great,
Mhm.
i.e., what you just said, registration, corners,
Mhm.
edges. But hey, it's off center, near miscut. That's going to be something you may look at, and instead of just saying, "Oh, there it is," I told you it was a 9. Well, it's a 9 OC
Mhm.
instead of a 9. What I'm thinking a 9 in my head should be.
Mhm. Yeah, that's where it gets tricky. The whole point of third party grading was supposed to be to add an intermediary that is
Mm-hmm.
supposed to have a posted standard. Where as long as they kept to the truth is, as long as PSA keeps to the posted standard, we're not. You can complain about it, but then they can shove the posted standard back in your face and be like, "We wrote this down," and as long as we're following the rules we set out here for what a 9 is versus what a 10 is, that's just like your opinion, man.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden you become, the dude. It's like that's just like your opinion, man. But that's what happens. I just wanted to get Paul's comment on here. It was good because you gotta enjoy a Mari Povich comment in there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the collecting community seems to have gone away from rewarding good service to chasing after them, being that dejected lover in Mari who keeps chasing after the two-timing deadbeat. Uh, Paul puts it in a colorful way, but the truth is, though, his point is valid.
Mm-hmm.
It goes back to what I said on your show about the retail. It's like, guys, most of the hobby's problems are at least partially your fault. You being the person who's complaining because you're participating. You buy into it. PSA literally said, again, I'm paraphrasing, that a million card backlog is good. Why? Because it means we got lots of business. So it means we got consistent business even if things get a little lean. But instead, it's not getting lean. It's getting busier all the time.
Yeah.
We complain about it, but you keep sending more cards. You keep sending more bulk submissions. You keep sending
Mm-hmm.
more of this. SGC dropped the ball, but they didn't think ahead. They didn't think like, what if this campaign works? What if actually we
Mm-hmm.
get a lot of people to try us out all at once and they send us 500 cards? We thought they were going to send us 10. They actually sent us 500. Oh, what am I supposed to do now?
Yeah.
Uh, can we grade all these? Well, not fast enough because there's another 500 that's coming in now, another 1,000 after that, and whatever. Just like, so it meant really, it meant that when SGC made that claim, they were probably operating at a little under capacity or right at capacity, which means the
Mm-hmm.
moment you bumped up those figures, it's like, we're already kind of close to capacity. We didn't have that much extra bandwidth. And now you've made this bigger. SGC should have always been a third player but they became known as the vintage grader. One of the comments earlier that I referenced is that their reputation is in vintage. Well, yeah, but for SGC long term, they've done well with it. But if they really wanted to be like the number two player, they couldn't just be vintage.
Mm-hmm.
That's not actually how you make money. It's good for collectors because if I go and I say to you, Dave, let's get a T206 card, let's get an old judge card. You know what? We're probably going to buy an NSGC holder
Mm-hmm.
because they're consistent with their grading. They're actually quite good at identifying variations. They're actually quite good at identifying fakes.
Mm-hmm.
Are they perfect? I'm sure we can find examples where they screwed up. But on the whole, they've been pretty good. So
Mm-hmm.
their reputation is well established. PSA's reputation technically is bad, but they grade so many cards, so it's like, even if they screw up 1% of them, that still means they've got hundreds, 100 million that are good.
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes a math problem. It's like, well, yeah, there's so many they screwed up on. It's like, yeah, but there's tens of millions where they're where technically. No, this is fine. It's about right.
Yeah.
So that's, I understand, but it's the hobby really likes to put itself in these positions and then complain about the position it put itself in. It's always been this interesting situation that I find with it, where the people that complain the most are like, okay, so you're not buying graded cards anymore? It's like, no, I bought a graded card yesterday. What do you want me to tell you? I don't know what to say to you. I have no idea. And it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't get any retail. Okay, why do you want it? Oh, well, I used to be able to buy all the stuff in retail and resell it. So your complaint is that somebody else bought it and resell it before you? That's the problem? I've heard that. I've heard that from folks
Oh,
that are in that category. And it's like, you are not the one who should be complaining about this. Anyway.
no, I don't get that. It's like, and I've heard people complain. Well, I get not me personally, but they get like brought up and like, well, you bought all the retail. Well, you know what? Right now, the next guy's going to buy it, or the next gal, or
Mm-hmm.
whoever. It's not just me doing it, or this person, or whoever. It's man, if I'm not clearing the shelf, somebody else will.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem with the retail, and again with the market with the grading cards or the graded stuff. People, yeah, they're sending out 400 or getting 400 back. It's like, yeah, at the same time, they're causing the problem. But I think in their mind, they're seeing, okay, whatever is selling at, there's a Kobe Topps rookie selling at 150 ungraded or raw.
Mm-hmm.
At an 8, it's selling for 800. So it's like, well, man, if I just get a min 8, that's what, 3, 4 times more, 5 times more. I can wait.
Mm-hmm.
So the drive for the money, I think it's always going to be that now. It's I don't think we're going to go back to 5 years ago when grading was just sort of, hey, I'll throw some stuff in there. If it grades well, it grades well. If it doesn't, there's still a market for it. Now everybody's so dead set. Nines, tens. I mean, you go to shows and you'll see like the card saver with the raw grade stuff. I've seen them at nationals, and this was even 10 years ago. You'd have the card taken out, that graded thing just tossed to the side because it didn't meet whatever the grade was.
Mm-hmm.
So now I can only imagine that's amplified 100 times with the new blood, the new money, the new investors, the new collectors in the hobby. That just they need those nines, they need those tens. If it's not a 10, I don't want it. It's like, well, we should have all that stuff in the hobby, but when the hobby becomes so much more of a business and that grading is just one of the main drivers of the hobby now,
Mm-hmm.
that becomes a problem. And I mean, it's not our in our hobby necessarily,
Mm-hmm.
but we see it enough where it's like, okay, my bubble's here. Now my bubble's here because that grading, I hear this guy complaining, that guy, that gal. It's like, well, just step away from the graded cards for a while.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Yeah.
plenty of aspects of the hobby that you can go and enjoy. You don't need to sit there and look for tens all the time. And that's the only, I mean, that's, again, don't tell people to buy or collect, but you're not having fun and it's because of grading, common sense and logic, move away from the graded part of the hobby and move to, again, some newer stuff or some inserts or whatever, just rookie cards. Say, hey, I don't care if it's a PSA 10, if I can get a raw Mattingly rookie for my whatever top 250 cards of whatever decade. Then
Or
you can,
potentially hundreds, a stack of hundreds of Ziggy Palfy rookies.
I don't know if that exists anywhere. I'd like to talk with someone.
I'll ask him. I'll ask him. See, we'll see.
That's
We'll
why,
see. He is the foremost expert that I usually consult on these matters.
that's why I think he puts that sheet or that towel behind him because he doesn't want everybody to see the shrine to Ziggy Paul.
Well, it's a shrine combined with actually 1,600 count boxes of only Ziggy Palfy rookies. It's actually just one card. The embarrassment is like, no, this is strictly the rookie. The second year and third ones are in warehouse B and warehouse C. That's usually where he keeps them. It's a separate thing.
They're on the top of that Toronto tower. Trying to think where it's, that's where he's got everything else.
The CN Tower.
Yeah,
We got it on the rotating platform, just a bunch of Ziggy Palfys rotating for all time. That'd be great. Let's see here. So let me grab this from Bobby. No, but I think your points are valid because, but it's one of those conversations, and I won't name names on this one because it's something I want to talk to them because I talk to some of the folks who will make some of these complaints, and the thing is they're good collectors, and I like what they do, and I respect what they're doing, but sometimes they do fall into that kind of woe is me thing, and it is, and it's like I listen and I'm like, for lack of a better way of phrasing it, it's like be better than that. Like there are so many areas to collect where you can have some fun. Why are you spending all your time? Because clearly it's bothering you. Otherwise, you wouldn't bring it up all the time. Why are you spending so much time being upset about this stuff that seems to bother you a lot when there's a whole bunch of things that are you can collect this, you can collect that, you can have some fun with this. There's a bunch of things, or you can have some fun doing the content. You can have some fun posting some pictures on Instagram. Like there's 1,000 areas of the hobby that you can enjoy yourself in. Why are you focusing on the part that seems to annoy you? Seems like a waste of energy for me. Just Bobby here. Is CGC will also claim to be a card expert? Well, the thing is, technically, based on what Jeremy was explaining, they got a couple of the Beckett graders in there. And again, I can't speak to the credential. It's funny because I don't disagree because what Jeremy said is accurate. I have no reason to doubt any of that. But the problem is, it's like, okay, some of the leading Beckett graders. I'm like, well, so what does that mean? Like, can you? I guess I have to see your resume. Like, can you tell me which specific great cards you graded, and then can I go look at the card and figure? I say, actually, it turns out you were wrong. Based on my eye, you're about 2 grades too high. Okay, you're the leading Beckett grader. So what? That is potentially on paper a very good credential, but I don't know what it means. It's the beauty of it is that you can say that and be correct, but it also doesn't necessarily have to mean anything.
yeah.
And I'm not saying this just to be mean or play devil's advocate here. I'm being honest. It's like being the League Beckett grader is like, that's cool, man. But what does that mean in practice? How does that transfer then into your ability to either do the grading yourself or transfer that to potentially other people? Because you're not going to be grading every card theoretically. You don't have enough hours in the day.
Mm-hmm.
So it's your ability to transfer your knowledge into this team you're assembling to be able to do the job, and how well they do is going to be a reflection of how good you're doing your job, not your personal. Because unless you're grading every single card personally, and you're not, your team is going to be the reflection. And if it turns out the grading is inconsistent, that was your team. So you got the leading Beckett grader, turned out to be nothing.
And that's where I'd hope, like, on their site, and I wish people do this, so you at least have some transparency and like knowledge. Would this ever happen? Probably not, because you don't want to put people out there. And
Well, with high-profile cards, it's like, could you imagine if it'd be like, so you know the LeBron James fake that was graded the other day? That was Dave. Just saying, it was Dave. But like, could you imagine like the amount, especially if someone like a high-profile collector bought this and then it's like, well, now they get to direct all their ire at you personally, like. And also, as soon as they know that you're the guy that grades those, you become the target the other way. He's like, oh, I hear that you're the one who grades all the high end stuff. Well, I just sent one in. So could you like make sure it
Give
gets
me
the
a
right grade?
handshake and $50 and yeah, it's the double-edged sword. You know you're going to get negative, positive reaction either way on that. But it'd be nice to just say, hey, this guy's had a girl has had 12 years experience at Beckett, graded over whatever number of cards. Here's some examples. Do that, but again, I don't know if any company will ever go to those lengths to appease collectors, because most collectors that have been in this hobby for a long time, it just seems like we can't be appeased no matter what it is. It's
Yes.
we always have that. Well, what about what you didn't answer this question?
Mm.
There's always
Yeah.
something that you're looking for.
It's very similar to the print gun conversation I had the other day when Jeremy and I were chatting about it. Is that why would the card companies give you the print runs?
Mm-hmm.
What possible benefit would it be for them? It actually could be potentially a detriment. It could actually be a bad thing for them to do that. Similarly, for the graded companies, it's like, what benefit would it be for you to out your own graders and put them in a bad position where they suddenly have to answer for specific anomalies that maybe you just had a bad day, maybe you had an off day, and it turns out that was the problem. You were just off that day. If you had graded it on Thursday instead of Wednesday, it would have been fine. It's just you had a bad day, and the next day you were feeling better, and all of a sudden your grading was back to your norm. You just had an off day. And that's a problem. And the second thing is, going back to that transparency and consistency thing, is that and I'm just going to use this as an analogy. Any skill has different levels of people, and I just think of it from my old stomping grounds where I used to work at the call center. In that kind of business, your turnover is constant, which means to become a veteran doesn't take very long because people just aren't cut out for it. They burn out. You take a lot of abuse. It's long hours. It's not fun. You have to have a certain mentality. I did it for years because I have the mentality where stuff at work doesn't bother me. I don't take it home with me. That wasn't the case for everybody else. And some people can't take that kind of abuse. They don't have, for lack of a better word, the ego to be able to just have it bounce off of you. It's like whatever you say is not going to bother me that much. But I watched a girl have a nervous breakdown directly beside me. And she had been doing it for 6 years. And it was just that one call that just finished it. She couldn't do it anymore. She went on leave and then never came back. And she had done it for 6 years. Successfully. She was very good at her job. But she couldn't take it anymore. Like that one call finally broke her. And it was just one call too many. And that's what happens. I after a while, I was doing escalations. The reason I'm bringing this up, and I promise there's an analogy I'm going to bring back to the grading thing. The reason I'm bringing this up is that once you do become more of a experienced in this, there's two types of experience. There's experience as in you've experienced a lot of things, and then there's experience as a lot of time. They're not the same thing. They can be related to each other, but they're not. We had people in the call center that were there for over 10 years. They were some of the worst agents. They couldn't remember anything. They were incompetent. They just happened to hang around over time because people tended to like them personally. So they just hung around. But they never got promoted. They just stayed at customer service. So they would come in, half-ass an entire shift. Every time something sounded mildly complicated, they would transfer it off to somebody else. But they would be able to talk you under the table. They were really nice, and they were good at selling. Because they were good at selling new product, they could just stay. But they were terrible at their job, like objectively terrible at their job. But if you look at the resume, it says, oh, it's 10 years as a customer service rep. What does that mean? It means you were there for 10 years. That's all it means. In 6 months, I was a better agent than they ever were in their prime. The fact that you were doing it for 10 years just meant you did it for 10 years terribly, developed bad habits, and kept it going for 10 years. It doesn't mean you were good. It took me 3 months to get promoted. They were there for 10 years in the same job that I started it. What does that tell you?
They're dedicated.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like, but do you get the point that I'm trying to make, though? Like, from the grading side of it, it's like, yeah, you were doing 10 years at Beckett. That's awesome. Were you 10 years with distinction, or were you there 10 years as a warm body filling a seat? What does that mean? Like, there is a difference between one and the other. That's kind of the point that I'm trying to make it. And to Bobby's point here, they may as well get your email address, Bobby. At least I know that you know. At least I know that Bobby's written books. So at least he knows his stuff. When we were talking about vintage hockey, the various intricacies of it, something like this company would probably should consult experts. Even if you don't have them
Mhm.
in-house, maybe you should have a Rolodex of experts that can consult, because it'd be good to know certain things, because there's some nuances for some of these issues that you're not going to know, and it's not in the book. It's out there, like people who know have passed along that information, but maybe it hasn't been documented fully. But you have to have tremendous references and things that you can reach out to.
Sort of like again, where I popped in my head, but like the Pawn Stars, when they have something that comes in that they don't really know
Yep.
about, it's like, hey, I'm going to dial up such and such. Hey, I got this thing, this card. I don't really know much about it. And you come down here and take a peek. Something like that would be very useful, and it'd cause a lot of, or it'd prohibit a lot of, or it wouldn't cause a lot of trouble down the road. You'd at least have that answer then, instead of, oh, we just went on a whim, did it, graded it. Oh, shoot. Now look what happened. It's not a real card, and we graded it. Now we're over the fire in the kettle. PSA's off, the BGS would be off, but now we're on it. It's not a position we wanted to be in. But if you don't get all your dominoes in a row, guess what? Something's gonna fall down, and then the whole castle crumbles. And guess what?
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, Bobby's just confirming that, and the thing is, that's the way it should be. Like you should
Mm-hmm.
have. Now, one thing, and I don't know if they do this, and it would make sense for me if they did. One thing that you can steal from the call center model is that you would have certain people that would be better versed in certain areas. But
Mm-hmm.
after a while, rather than have to rely on Dave to constantly tell us how to deal with this issue, at a certain point, someone eventually is like, could you write this down? Could you publish it on a site we can all access to be like, hey, by the way, if this specific issue happens, to bring it back to the sports card example, you get these experts on Rolodex. You get Bobby to explain to you some of the intricacies of some of these issues. But then rather than just leave it at that, okay, we've solved the problem for this one issue, one card for that just came in, write it down. Put it down somewhere where we can access it later. Where, yeah, we're still going to bring Bobby in to get certain references and ideas and things because he's going to have some insights that he can offer us.
Mm-hmm.
But if I get a new agent here who's being asked to grade this and maybe doesn't understand it, wouldn't it be great to have some references available that you have now built in-house as more knowledge comes in and it grows? We had that in the call center because after a while, people started writing down these process as new issues came up that had never happened before. They would create these pages, and then you could go reference it, and then you could figure out, oh, you know what? Somebody 6 months ago had this problem. They tried this, this, and this. For grading, you can do the same thing. This same card came in, and it looked like this. It turned out it was a fake.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, tell us what were the telltale signs? Oh, the font looked like this, or this happened. Because you could call Bobby or whoever anytime you wanted, and he could individually tell you for this specific card, give you a couple of the indicators. Oh, cool. But if nobody wrote it down, it's like the next time you see the identical card with a problem on it, does anybody remember what Bobby said? What was the issue? What was the thing we were looking for? Yeah, exactly. Totally. You're 100% right. The thing is, there's a lot of businesses where you can get by on your personality and your people skills, as opposed to, like, do you actually know what you're doing? Do you actually know what you're doing? Or are you just going to ask the guy back there who's been here like 6 months but has actually studied the material? What are we talking about here? That to me is a problem. So for that new card company, I'm glad they brought in some Beckett graders. I don't know what that means. Right now, it actually means nothing. I need to see what the results are of that. If it turns out they build an amazing team, train them extremely well, and the grading becomes consistent, then awesome. Then it's a win. You hired the right people. You got them in the right position. They built a great team. This is a win. Congratulations. Just work on that holder a little bit. I'm still not a fan of it. But if you do the rest, you know what? You're on your way. Then maybe it's just tweaking the holder or doing whatever. Your collectors are going to give you feedback. They're not shy. They'll give you feedback.
Yeah.
That's fair. So what I'll leave. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a couple of cards, guys, and I'll show off a couple of cards. But at the same time, we're talking about this. I think we've discussed the grading piece into the ground. One other thing that I wanted to talk about. Well, the thing is, right now there's no more we can add without more information. Like I don't know enough about this new company yet. I need more. Yes, I know they've done comics, and I'm familiar with them from the comics. I got to see how that transfers to sports cards. So I know you're good at the comics, but I need to see how that goes in from there. Yeah, exactly, Vinny. That is exactly how that works. And when you have that in place, that is what the agents, or in this case the graders, should be referring to, because they don't know every issue in creation. As they study more cards and grade more cards, they will learn. They will become better. That's the hope. As you experience more, you will get better, and all of a sudden there will come a day where the 52 top mantle comes in and it's you. 5 years ago, they wouldn't let you anywhere near it. Now you have enough experience. You've done enough other things. Like, okay, it's your time, Dave. Grade the card. And then hopefully all that experience you've got up until this point will help you because you've done it now.
Mm-hmm.
But until I actually see the results, and again, I'm still back at the original thing that I said. I'm like, I don't know who the dealer is going to be who's going to take the leap first, because I think it has to be a big dealer with volume, who might already have a bunch of PSA and SGC. What's the incentive? Might have to be financial.
Well, that's what I was going to say. They're going to have a kickback, or
It's got to be
something going to happen. You're not just going and be like, well, I got a 1,000 card order. I'm going to go with these guys now. No. Oh.
Yeah, there's a lot of them who already are like, they'll deal with the delays. They will. Mm-hmm. They'll just accept it. Now, actually, let me transition into this piece of the discussion a little bit. Now, obviously, you had your challenges earlier this week, or specifically today, getting certain cards. Obviously, the prices have started escalating. We know that. Especially for some of the big cards. Because, like I said, one of the things that I've said on the channel a lot is that I have, generally speaking, not had too much of an issue getting some of the high-end Medanos for my collection. But obviously, he's not immune to price inflation. I showed you the price of that last card. I paid a couple bucks for it. Yeah, a little bit. So it's like, I couldn't get any cheaper realistically because they don't come up all the time. And I can't even use, and it's been discussed before, I can't blame Beckett for this, but if we use Beckett price, I paid more than double book. Comfortably. So, and it's not like I have, and I can't blame Beckett for not updating the price because it's like, do they have sales every weekend? They don't. They only sell once in a blue moon. So, maybe I'll report back to Beckett and go, by the way, I paid for this. You might want to adjust your price. Could you imagine? That'd be fantastic. I would enjoy that. It's like, yeah, guys, so we have one reported sale. What? Some moron paid this. Yeah. New box grading company in Canada. I feel like it would fall into the same problem as KSA. Like, even if, let's say they did disclose their experts, Bobby, do you think that they would struggle? Because, and this is a weird thing to say, but it's true, I think. I think there's a stigma trying to sell Americans on doing a third-party grading out of somewhere outside of America. It seems dumb, but I would bet you that would hinder them. Just being a Canadian grader, a lot of American buyers would hesitate. And it doesn't actually mean they're any better or any worse, because they could have operations. Again, it would be better for us if we had a PSA Canada office that was doing the grading locally so that they could get the stuff back to us quicker. That would be advantageous to have a regional office to handle that. Because yes, we've got volume, but we don't have nearly as much volume as the US, so they could probably proportionally hire the amount of people to handle it and break it up. That way we're not making the volume over there worse. It would be very interesting to see. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking, Bobby, is that I'd be very curious to see if they would get, again, market acceptance, the key words we're talking about. Would the market accept a third-party box grader if it was based outside of the United States? I don't know.
Yeah, it just depends on price and who you're getting in there, as we discussed. You're getting collectors like us who rarely sell anything of ours, or you're getting the quote-unquote investor/flipper type people are just trying to move product and keep those funds moving. That'd be the big hindrance, or the acceptance of it. And only time would tell.
No, that's fair. Now, I think we've talked about this a little bit the last time I had you on here as well, and I kind of want to get a little bit of an update based on it. So do you think now, since the prices have been starting, well, they've been going for a while now, but now it's very clear that even for some of the stuff that isn't the hottest of the hot, we know that if it's a star player, a Hall of Fame caliber player, guys like that, those prices have escalated. Does it mean now, though, that because there were two different cards you showed me, and obviously both provided a challenge because both were very aggressive. in terms of the pricing, what you end up at.
Mm-hmm.
What makes it interesting for me is, does that mean though that you are going to focus in more on certain specific grails and be like, I'm just going to throw everything at those grails, or focus on some of the second tier ones? This is kind of a general philosophy thing. I'm curious how you approach it now that you know what we're talking about a little bit more. You got some more data points now. You understand where this is going.
Mm-hmm.
How does that affect what you're targeting?
If it's, and I've got in my mind 5, 6 cards that one of them's like the Black Diamond. You've got the 21. I think he's got one that's like 34, 40, somewhere in there.
Are we talking about Brodeur?
Yes.
Yeah, Brodeur I think is a little bit higher number just because it would be based on wins for goalie, I think. Yep. So whatever his wins were the previous year, that's what it would come out to.
Because I think Waugh, and that was when I had seen during that expo, that virtual expo, somebody had the Waugh.
Yep.
But they wanted $450 for it. And I'm like, I see the pricing. I very much in line with that, but right now or at that time, I was like, I don't want to pay that much. Mm-hmm. Brodeur, on the other hand, I don't know if I'd go that high.
43.
Would I be tempted? Mm-hmm. Absolutely, because that one, the one I showed you, which I knew, I kept going in my head. I'm like, it's going to cost more, and I went probably $75, $100 more than I was going to bid, and that wasn't even enough. Mm-hmm. The first one I showed, I was like, I know there's some SPs in those sets. It's not, there's variations. I want to get like a silver foil board and die cut, silver sparkle, I think. Mm-hmm. Would that be a play?
Now, question, given that this sale is ended, do you want to show the cards or no?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll pull them up as we talk. I'll pull them up. Pretty sure I can grab them out here.
And that stuff, I mean, I'd still pay. I don't think I paid as much for the PMG or the precious metals. Mm-hmm. So they're rated a 95 than the second one, which I was really hoping to get today. Am I happy now that he doesn't have the run for the cup? Yes and no. Because, again, it's still a huge insert. I still know that StarQuest Gold is going to cost me a mint if I find it. But for me, even knowing that some of that stuff is going to cost a ton, at some point in time, it's of a card of a player that you know isn't going to go down. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, if they don't commit murder or genocide, something where it just they go off the rails. It's not going to get any. It's going to get more scarce because as the years go by, it's not like UD MVPs getting broken by breakers. And to me, that stuff always looks the best. Mm-hmm. It's not okay. There's the Panini Silver or an Upper Deck exclusives or whatever else is out there, like a Donruss Optic Silver. It's not something like that where, they're cool looking. No, these ones, when you get the stuff in hand of all these 90s inserts, it's next level beauty. I mean, like with the limited exposure.
Yeah, so I'm just putting that on the screen there. That's one of the ones we're talking about.
Yeah, and it.
Yeah, so the US dollars is underneath, just for those of you who don't want to do the conversion. That's the price in US dollars.
And yeah, that's. I know I'm fairly certain it's an SP, but at the same time, there is a silver, I think, foil board sort of variation and a die cut where like the player part is die cut out of there.
And out of curiosity, do you have the die cut one?
I'd love to. I mean,
I'll send you a link later.
I'll
send you a link later.
And then my Czech Republic guy had some stuff up, but thankfully I've got most of it from him already. So I was happy with that. But yeah, that dual view one, that one was a absolute donkey kick to the man region where I'm like, oh,
right.
I mean, it like I told you in my message you whatever earlier in the week, I'm like die cut, hologram, serial numbered, on card autograph.
Yep.
Everything, it checks every box, and again, I know there's other Brodeur collectors. Obviously, I'm not, and I've always said I'm not well versed in who collects who out
Yeah.
there. Like on Hobby Insider, like on Instagram, like on a Blowout.
It's also kind of hard to tell now. Like I said, once eBay took away the ability to see the winning bidders,
Mm-hmm.
you did lose your ability. Because sometimes, even if I can't win this one, I want to know who won.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you see the same names over and over and over, you start to build like a little bit of list in your mind, like, okay, this is the one I need to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
Because you start to realize, I see. I see. Makes sense.
So there's a list I've got of what I want.
Mm-hmm.
I've got prices in mind. Would I like to go to like an expo and find like your Madonna Star Quest Gold for the price you paid? Absolutely. Even twice that price.
Yeah.
Three times that price.
I would love to find it at that price. I would buy extra copies.
So I mean, you love finding those hidden gems, and then the price point where it's absolutely foolhardy not to pick up, even if you had one,
Mm-hmm.
not to pick up a second, third, eighth, whatever the case may be. But I know there's going to be some, probably most of the top 5, if not the top 10 of the ones I want to get that are going to cost upwards of $100 or more dollars. And that certified, totally certified platinum gold is one that I know is just going to be a headlock for like a month and a half, 2 months. But again, the rainbow foil, serial numbered. It's
So this is the other one as well, just the duo view, just the one that Dave's discussing here.
Yeah, that one. Oh,
That was a nice one too. I like that one.
you just don't see them. I mean, that's the first time I've seen the autoed one. And again, it's only been, like I said, 8, 9 months
Mm-hmm.
of really digging deep back into hockey. But 9 months, you try to find like a Juan Soto Topps Chrome update.
Mm-hmm.
You find 20 of those a day, an hour listed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually a
So,
pretty high production card, all things considered now.
but to try to go back and, again, well, I'm making up for lost time. That's the tough part. And I mean, I've always said too, where other player collectors, if you want to collect somebody that just came out, get their stuff now, especially the low end or the low numbered stuff, because you know what? Don't be that guy that says, $20 for this card number to 10. Pish posh. 3 years later, you still haven't seen another one. And you're like, and then the next one pops at 150, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, that's unfortunately, and I hate that it has turned out this way. Is that we're at the point where if you are a collector, hobby inflation happens, and it continuously happens. So it's one of those deals where, again, I got very fortunate with that Star Quest Gold. It was right time, right place. Just right time, right place. It just was a perfect storm. And when I saw it, I knew what was there. It was a situation where, like, it became very clear what I needed to do. It wasn't a hesitation moment. It's like, no, let me think about it. Let me go back around. Let me go back around. Look something like I'm going to take that. Just fork that over, because I knew that the likelihood, even back then, and again, it was like 10 years ago when I bought it, but even back then, I'm like, I don't see these all the time. I know I don't see them all the time. What is the likelihood that I'm going to run into a bunch of these going forward? Probably not. Probably not. Be kind of tough. Yeah, and Steve's kind of in the same boat. Anybody who collects any players or teams or whatever, and quote unquote super collects. But if you're in that boat, there are certain cards that just once they dry up, it's like it's a Sahara. Like you just don't see, and you don't know if they're. And if you think you see an oasis, like, is it a mirage? Is it actually out there at this point? Like, I don't know. I got a message here, and at some point, if they want me to share it with, I will. I got a direct message on Instagram. Again, I very much enjoyed Instagram for the hobby. It's been actually really good to communicate with people that way. It's been very handy. We were able to set this up predominantly through Instagram. It's just easy. It just makes it easy. Plus, I may have sent you a link to a card you may want. Check it later.
I saw
Yeah, check it later. Anyway, So, but one of the things that I saw is that sometimes people will ask a question, but in the course of asking a question, they'll send like a picture or something like, oh, have you seen this before? Sometimes you'll see something interesting. In this case, it
Mhm.
wasn't something I was going to buy because it wasn't available, but it was an old Hobby Insider post that somebody did. And they actually sent me a screenshot of the Hobby Insider post, and it showed a Cup Medano card. It was a Cup Jamie Benn Medano dual patch autograph. I
Mhm.
knew of this card. I haven't seen one. It's out of 35. It's from 09-10. So Jamie Benn's rookie year, along with
Mhm.
Medano's last full year in the Stars. That's an awesome card that is the Venn diagram of kind of my Dallas Stars collecting. The two guys that I do collect. I do still collect Jamie Benn, just not as aggressively. But I'll pick up the cool card here and there that's fun. Like that right there is the Venn diagram. It's like the perfect card that fits right in that collection that I have. Because I do collect Jamie Benn's rookie year stuff. So
Mhm.
again, it checks off all the boxes. That post was from like 9 years ago. That person has since passed away. Nobody knows where that card has gone. But
Mhm.
once upon a time, in picture form, I know it existed. Where it is now, no idea. Would that be a card I would go after aggressively? You're damn right. But I wouldn't have known that someone at least had it lying
Mhm.
around because, like I said, I haven't seen one. So that was the first time I actually got to see the card on an old archived HI post from 9 years ago.
And that's where you almost hope, okay, let's say that comes up, you go as aggressive as you can, and then you go above what you think you should be able to get it for, and you lose. Hopefully, in that regard, and I'm hoping somebody pops another one up there saying, man,
Mm-hmm.
they just got a ton of money for this card.
Mm-hmm.
I've been sitting on it for 15 years. I don't do cards anymore. Maybe I'll put it up.
Yeah.
So that's what you always hope for. Does it happen? No. But when you lose something like that, you hope somebody else is watching and like sort of not meticulously studying the market. You're sitting there and it's like, man, I hope another collector sees this, one that has long since dipped out of the hobby, and they're just sitting on their stuff waiting for the right time. Maybe that seeing that sale that nudges them in the direction of selling it.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping for that now that another one pops up or yeah, that's one that's gonna hurt because again that it fits all the criteria of the things I look for. Even the autograph, I'm like, it's great on there. Do I need it? No, I've got the regular duo view, which I paid I think like 60 a shipped for.
Mm-hmm.
But the auto, that helps. It's not a streaky auto. Everything's real clean and clear on there, and to lose it, I'm like, oh.
I think my favorite part about it is when you sent over the picture and the link. You literally checked off that it met all these criteria for you. It was like I was like, well, okay. I was kind of like, it's like, go for it, man, take it down. But yeah, but it's become very clear. It's like now it's like almost like, okay, I'm going to bid more than I could possibly ever want to pay. But that's where I came to with that patch card at the beginning of the broadcast.
Mhm.
Did I want to pay that much? No, I didn't want to pay that much. Um, I would have been annoyed paying book. I paid double.
Mhm.
But I knew what it was. I knew how long it had been. I also knew that I really liked that year in that
Mhm.
design of patch because Manetta didn't have it. First year, you didn't have patches. Second year, you had patches, but he wasn't in the checklist. Second year, I've got almost all the 98, 99 upper decks minus the one of ones and the one frozen in time. Aside from that, I've got everything that he's got in that collection.
Mhm.
So no patches, no jerseys that year at all. That's the third year of Upper Deck having jerseys, and that's the first year he's got a patch. So it's like, so I was like, oh, okay, fine, we'll do it reluctantly. Well, the thing is, like, the likelihood of another one popping up soon is like, and what happens? What's the price the next time?
That's
This
the
is a
thing.
dealer I've worked with a bunch of times who was willing to work with me on a price. Basically, I got them to basically because they could have just sat and waited on some more offers and maybe gotten some more. I gave them a price that was a little bit more than the last person's offer, literally a little bit more. And I said, look, man, just let me have it, basically. And he was like, all right, because I already bought a bunch of other stuff of him. The
Mhm.
winning platinum, also from him. So it's like, They got some of the rare ones. Again, if they had the run for the cup, I'm like, shut up and take my money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Bobby's right. We need little, but want much. True. Wise words, Bobby. Wise words.
That's basically my collection.
Well, you're a different issue entirely. I saw. Let me give you props on the Dumbo video because the stuff in there was very impressive. I will say there was a lot of impressive patches in there. Um, that's why I thought it was very interesting because the Minnesota Wild one does have a pretty good patch,
Mm-hmm.
and especially when they did the Prime for
Yep.
that one where they had the big one. That's why I was looking. But then I saw you had multiples, and I was like, how many multiples do you want, Dave?
I want a lot. That his rookie year stuff is incredibly addicting.
Right.
Especially
And
when you talk about,
it was mainly rookie year stuff, right? Okay. That wasn't my imagination, right?
I have some other stuff, but again, it's not like what 2 years ago he was on pace to be probably an all-star. Then he got in the fight with the Flames in like mid-December, he tore his pec or something like that, and then he was out for the year. So you had 12 goals through 2.5 months for a defenseman. That's fairly decent. That's substantial.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So he was on that trajectory, and then last year he was sort of sputtering a bit. I mean, there's trade rumors and whatnot, but it's not like he's Crosby. He's not Ovechkin. He's not one of these big offensive juggernauts that people love that you're going to put in all the insert sets, have some sort of patch variations and everything. So I got to sort of dip back to it's not be a player, but they have like a CHL product in the game. Like 2011, 12, or 10, 11. And he's got some stuff in that, or 12, 13. Then the rookie year stuff, I mean, I have a lot. I love this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely. There's one right now that I'm like, okay, this is what's good with me, and I'll come back to it. I collect enough players out there that.
Well, we already discussed this. At least approximately 1,600, I believe.
At least, give or take one.
Yes.
One.
Yes.
Where the Brodeur dual view auto is going to stay. That's going to be one that's constantly in my mind. But at the same time, for me, there's always something else out there. There's never a dead zone. And again, there's nothing listed on any of the various sites I'm perusing and just scouring. There's always something. So there's a couple cards right now that are up, and I'm like, okay, those funds didn't go to that duo view. I can easily go another direction where I can put a good chunk of money on another card that I hope to get and crack out of a horrendous BGS holder. It's absolutely hideous.
We're gonna be picking on the BGS one for a while, I think. And they did this themselves. They did this themselves.
This one is a hideous holder. I mean, I'll send you a link after we're off here, but it's like a hot plate.
Oh, really? Eh? Okay, gotcha.
It's horrible.
Fair enough. Let me grab a couple of these comments here. So yeah. So no, it's all good, Bobby. It's one of those things. I'm hoping it's about the wise words. I have no idea which one he was referring to. You have to clarify, Bobby. I don't know. I'm not sure. So Vinny just says Dave takes several to another level. True, very true. And I like, but Paul's comment. I wanted to make sure that I put Bobby's comment on there, and I wanted to make sure I put Vinny's comment on there because I want to talk about Paul's for a second because he's talking my language right now. He's speaking my language. So he goes, has anyone ever lost an auction, then took it out on other auctions? Stuff you wouldn't mind owning, but if anyone wants it, they're going to pay. And overpay at that. It's very therapeutic. Yes, Paul. Vindictive bidding for the win. I am in.
On one of the podcasts we did, Steve and I, it was rage buying.
Yes.
If you lose something, you're like, I need to go through my want list, and I just need to peg off 4 or 5 cards and just be like, there, take that. Stupid eBay. I'll teach you who's bought.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll take the opportunity to plug 2 things if you wanted to get a taste of this. Now, mind you, in fairness, I think I can do better than what I would have done now. One of the first live streams I did when I started doing live streams on the channel again was I did with Matt from the Essential Credentials. That was the very first episode when I restarted the live stream series and started doing these. And in that one, I discussed that exact thing. And one of the things, I believe, if memory serves me, the mention that I brought up about it, if it wasn't that one, it was one of the early ones for sure. I mentioned Leaf, and then when I did Leaf Ultimate Signatures, and I got so angry there were two one of ones, and I think I mentioned it in yours as well. I mentioned it recently in your podcast as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely mentioned that story before I cited to it. I got so angry that the out of two, I bought the second one purely out of spite. No one can have it. No one. That's it. But that happens though sometimes. Sometimes you just get really irritated. You just get like, you know what? Someone's gonna pay for this. I don't know how, I don't know where, but someone is gonna pay for this, and I'll make sure it happens. But it's a we can't despite the fact that when I did one of the podcasts with Jeremy, we joked about my not being very emotional about losing certain cards. For some cards, if I literally bid the maximum I could, that isn't going to bother me. But if it's something dumb, or if it's a technicality, or maybe the auction site didn't work, or something went down and I wasn't able to place the bid, I'm going to be infuriated. Or if I didn't realize what the checklist, in that case, it was that I didn't realize what the checklist was because it wasn't clear. I will say the Leaf, here's a critique. This isn't a criticism, it's a critique. The Leaf website needs some work on these checklists. It's hard for me to figure out what I'm supposed to be chasing sometimes. It's just reality. Like, give me a checklist I can easily figure out here without having to look in a couple of spots. Because you're making it harder for me. I didn't realize there was a second one of one. It wasn't because I didn't do any research. It was because it was kind of hard to figure out. And then afterwards I realized, wait, there's a green spectrum? And here's the trick. Part of the reason I got angry. There is green spectrums in some of the other subsets that is not a one of one. Which is BS. It means you're screwing with me. At least be consistent. If the green spectrum is always a one of one, I can live with that. Then I understand, okay, fine, there's always a green spectrum, I got it. But if you do it sometimes, and sometimes you change it up and make it a different number, I'm like, what am I supposed to do with that? Jerk.
Get BG on here and lay
Yeah,
in
I'll be like, bro,
just use a spreadsheet. Come on, just a spreadsheet. Simple.
They have a spreadsheet, but it's not like the cleanest. Like I haven't seen, like it needs work. Like they can do better. Like take 5 minutes, get an intern to like make it a little cleaner, make it a little easier for me to read. So as we speak, I lost an auction of something really rare. So Bobby's just adding it here, something rare. And the seller contacted me and said he had us a nicer one. And if I want it, he wants $10 more. Ha ha! It's true. It's true. I would hope they didn't just hold out randomly on a second one of those, although that'd be kind of funny. And let's be fair, Dave. If they offered you a second copy for $10 more, you'd buy it.
Oh, easily.
At this point, it'd be like, yeah, absolutely. Without question. Absolutely, Paul. Stupid multiple one of ones. Yes. That's junk. If you're going to have to do a rainbow, you have to do two or more one of ones. That's junk. I'm not talking about press plates. I won't count those. That's a different thing. But like actual one of ones of like a regular card, I'm like, no, that's garbage. Unbelievable.
That's where the 2011 Topps triple thread. Josh Johnson has 5 different whatever, like 2-time All-Star, Big Fish, whatever the 5 words are on that card. So you've got the 36, 27, 18, 9, 3, 1. Then you have the 4 plates of the 4 white whales. Mm-hmm. Then you have the wood variation, which is a 1-1 as well.
Yep.
So I'm like, yay, that's wonderful for somebody who's a completionist and a obsessive compulsive type collector, especially with Josh Johnson. That's not going to be trouble for me at all, ever.
No. Come on, Dave. It sounds right up your alley. It's your favorite thing. Come on. Don't lie to the people.
And trying to find all that stuff now, it's like, 10 years after the fact, and I'm sure everybody's got their stuff in just like a box in the closet where, he didn't pan out. Who cares? Nobody wants him. Well, somebody will pay some money. I'm not going to pay incredibly stupid, maybe some stupid money, but not to the point where that dual view went. I'm not that dumb. I mean, Brodeur, if I died, I could sell that. Somebody could sell it for me.
Yes.
Josh Johnson, we'd have to talk to his family about it and see if the kids want it. That'd basically be the end of the conversation with potential buyers.
Yeah, I don't think with Josh Johnson it's going to work out quite nearly as well. I remember once upon a time I had MVP had had a red parallel. I don't remember what it was numbered out of. I want to say 25, but it might have been different numbering. It was like in the early 2000s, I think. And I pulled the Trevor Linden, and it turned out I sold it to the Trevor Linden family. They were going out buying, and I was looking at it, and I think those things were selling for like there were a couple more out there because the product was new at the time. But I think they were out there selling like for 10, $15, and I was like, oh, that'd be cool. And I think it sold it for like $48, and I was like, and then I went and looked at it, and I was like, I see what happened here. And I was like, who was the underbidder? Who bid against you? Who needed it this badly? Today, if you're a Trevor Linden super collector, yeah, that'd be a tough card. But at the time, it was like, no, it was still new issue, so it was still pretty common. You could have found a couple of copies, but yeah, they bid aggressively. So I was like, all right, great. But yeah, I don't think Josh Johnson is going to be bidding up the the greatest Josh Johnson collection in the world.
Yeah, and when I send it into CGC and have it notated on the flip as this being.
Well, we discussed this already. The one thing you've got going in your favor is at least it was in Beckett Super Collector. We can at least cite, hey, it has in fact been put in print, because I think there was still a physical magazine, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so it was in print. But at least that's something. I did think the column, while the magazine was out there, I did like the column. I mentioned that already before. Like, I thought it was a good column, especially when they did pick some more obscure players. Doesn't always have to be Ken Griffey Jr. or Frank Thomas or Gretzky or something like that. It's like pick somebody else, pick some other players, because at least that'll be fun.
I like the big pull ones at the shops when whoever pulled whatever, and then it didn't run for more than a couple years. But when they notate under like, okay, 2000 Topps gold label, whatever you have, set price, common, size, rookies, then below, note, 1 of 1 Mike Modano class 3 sold for $893, Brodeur sold for $1248, Trevor Linden sold for $255. There you go, Vinny. See,
we know,
the wheels in motion. But I mean, they list these ultra tough parallels. It wasn't always a 101. It could be the goofy Donruss Elite when they had the status and aspirations, and that stuff was either 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. I mean, they gave those sales, so at least you could say, okay, I've got something in my mind. They put that in my mind. Now we're going to work with that, and if one of those does pop up, I at least have some sort of, like I told you, the baseline where you can at least figure out where it's going to be instead of just literally blindly throwing a dart at the dartboard and hoping you're somewhere near it. So I mean, you don't want to spend like $1,500 for that Brodeur. It's like, that's a nice card, but that's not $1,500 worth. I'm going to get a Trout auto and somebody else's auto with that kind of money. And
yeah, no, that's fair. And it also depends on like what kind of, it's become like, okay, which kind? Because even for one of the things that I'm looking at, I'm not in a hurry. One of the things that I'm looking at in my collection is that I've picked up a couple of nice Sotos. I want to pick up a Soto autograph to kind of complement some of the other cards I've got in the collection. I don't really need a ton. I'm not going to go crazy on those, but I'd like to have one or two, just to be like, okay, just to add a little variety to that collection that I've been building. But it's not going to be one of those things where I'm going to try to get this huge card count. I'm interested in the first couple of years Sotos just because I think there's some good stuff there. There's some cool cards, and I think they're priced well for where they are right now. And if he continues to play well going down the road, because he ended up, even though he wasn't in the finalist 3, he ended up 5th in MVP voting. Pretty good. Batting title, again, shortened season, totally understand. But you do what you can with what you have. Given the way the season was, considering how young he is, any accolade is like a bonus. Silver Slugger Award, won that, top 5 MVP. None of this stuff's bad. All of this stuff's good.
No.
Yeah, you're building off of something. And if he continues to play well going in the future, great. It's just building off of it. But I'm not picky on any specific one. There's certain, as long as it looks cool. My criteria is gonna be like, does it look cool? I don't just want the cheapest one. But when it comes to what you're talking about, like those Brodeur cards, especially those late 90s, there's so many good ones, but they're so finite. And a lot of them have vanished because now you've got Brodeur collectors, you got New Jersey Devil collectors, if there is such a beast, and you've got goalie collectors who are a thing. And some
Mm-hmm.
goalie collectors will collect anybody, and Brodeur is the leading win guy of all time. So he's kind of a dude.
It's the rare time I actually collect somebody that's worth a crap.
Yeah, but that's always kind of the thing. It's like I suspect you'd have much easier time if you collected all-time great Al Montoya, who I would have preferred, who would have been a star if he had gone by my suggestion, Aldo.
Yes, and he
You
wore the
know, you
mask.
know the reference I'm making. You know the reference I'm making. If he had gone with Aldo Montoya, he would have been a star.
You know what that would have been? That wouldn't have been the coolest. That wouldn't have been the best. That, my friend, would have been just incredible.
See, guys, you got to Google that shit. You'll get it, but you got to Google that shit if you understand where I went with that. Dave knows. We'll still have the. By the way, we can still have the wrestling conversation, but I think the venue's your channel. I think if and when the time comes right, you just have you call the time, you call the place, and we'll make it happen. We can definitely do it. We can definitely do it. So what we'll do is this. Let me show off a couple of cards, and then I'll refill my beer. I don't think you have any cards around you, right, Dave?
I do.
Oh, you do? Cool. So do you want to show a couple, or because okay, let's do this. I've got two main boxes around me. So why don't you choose our own adventure here? This box has some Be a Player cards that I just started sorting, and some other miscellaneous autographs and cool stuff. This thing back here has Cup and UD Black. Where shall we go? What do you think?
I say be a player, because you might have some different names that people haven't heard of in a while in there.
Well, the thing is that here's the thing. This box is all Medano, and that box is all Medano. So you're not getting people you haven't heard of in a while. You'll get cards that you might have seen in a while, but players, you know who the player's going to be.
Let's do the be a player. Oh, I want to stick with the more the 90s, early 2000s.
All right.
You know that Black Diamond's in there too.
Sounds good. So let's see what we're going to be player here. Let me scroll through. This one I'm a big fan of, and I'm starting to sort out through some of these. This one here is a little bit underrated. I don't think it's cheaper than it should be, in my opinion. It's going to be a little hard to see. I'll do my best. This is a franchise, and this is from, I want to say what year. This is 2001, 2002, I believe. Franchise. It's a lenticular card.
Yep, those are fairly.
Yeah, these ones are one of the rare ones that are actually numbered. They are numbered.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what these are numbered to?
30.
Yes, sir. So there you go. It's hard to see because it's right in that dark area, but down there is a numbering. And this one is card number 12 of 30. 12 is my favorite number, so it works out very nicely. Let's see what we got here. Grab it a stack. Grab it a stack. Let's go on this side.
Now,
right.
go along with your in the game, be a player type stuff. Not numbered, but incredibly rare.
Yep, the complete package. That's right. Yeah,
And those
Matt,
are.
I was going to say Matt had one of those for Tebow, which is a really nice card. Same
He
year, I
had-
think, as well.
He had messaged me about the Tebow, and I think I picked up the wand, put it in the video, and he's like, "Dude, those are cool. What are they limited to?" I'm like, "They're a 10." I mean, it's something you see it for a decent price. Jump on it because again, we're not just floating around with it.
Agreed, 100%. Okay, so this one here is a nice stack that I like. It's almost complete, but not quite, but close. Okay, so you remember our good friends Be a Player Millennium?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Millennium. A lot of foil, but it is a pretty neat looking design. Okay, so game jersey. There's your base model, so to speak. Then we got our in the numbers. Number patch. Gotta have that.
Mm-hmm.
Then we got our stick jersey. Because the design's consistent, it works quite nicely. And then we got our good old emblem. And I think the only one I'm missing, if memory serves me, I believe there's an autographed jersey as well out of 10.
Okay.
So, but for the majority, I've got it. And if you want it out of 10, there you go. There's out of 10. Emerald. Different year, but again from the Be a Player pile. Exactly, the emblem. That's right. I'm a big fan. Like the emblem, I thought the Millennium ones, and it just looks cool, like as a group.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's the stick jersey's good, and if you like your stick jerseys, Be a Player did a great job with a lot of these memorabilia cards. This one was always a little funky. This is 2001, 2002 Signature Series. Look at the colors. I always thought this was kind of a weird design. Like they just randomly decided to be like, hey, let's be super colorful in the background. Why not? And you can see the jersey looks like it's got a little bit of damage on it as well with the little dark patch there.
Yep.
Yeah, but Be a Player did like use memorabilia, and they would specify used by Mike Modano in an NHL game. Like, let's be clear, this is what it is. And I always was fond of these. This is first year Be a Player when they came
Okay,
back.
yeah.
I just like the design.
100?
I think they're pretty much all under 100 for this era. But I would say, like, I was just a fan that they went with this way. And the burgundy All-Star jerseys were just awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a good-looking jersey.
So I've got... It's Wall, and I don't even know who else. Oh, Brian Leach.
Yep. Okay, so let me do these three here, and I will come back to this pile. Since Dave picked Be a Player, I've got a fair bit in the stack. But let me do these here, and then I'll do that beer refill. This is a different year, still an emblem as well. This is the All-Star emblem. I don't remember. I think it's 1 year later. That's nice. Those are good. How about this one? Game Use emblem from Parkhurst, since we like our emblems. So these are all random years because I haven't sorted them because I'm a terrible organizer when it comes to these cards once they go in the box. That's why I have to sort them. What I'm going to do is, for me, and actually I want to talk to you about this in a minute, Dave, after I come back. I'm trying to I think I figured out the way I want to sort these in the box because there's different ways of going about this. I think I figured out how I want to approach it, but I'd be curious with some of the collections you put together, how you put it, if it ends up in a box, because these things are not going to go in the Z-Folio. They're just not.
No, they won't.
No, these guys need to be separated out into one touches and or top loaders in a box. It's got to be in its own area. This one I like though. This one was 2000, 2001 Signature Series, and they did number them, which is nice. But this is the game jersey autograph. And a 3-color.
Which are tough to find.
That'll do. The combination of all the above, that'll do, Dave. That'll do. 3 guesses who sold this to me.
I'm going to say PWCC.
So close, Dave. Same people that sold me this. You want patches? I got patches. But this one here, and this is numbered 1 of 10. So you can sort of make that out. So it's number 1, 3-color, jersey auto. eBay 1 of 1. Hashtag invest. You know how this works. There you go. So there you go. There was a little mini showcase. I'll grab some more stuff from here, and at some point I'll probably grab the UD Black because that is a favorite with the paint pens and such. That is a favorite as well. Okay, cool. So one more thing, guys, while I go real quick. Obviously, Dave, you can see the comments. Check them out. But one other thing, guys. We've talked about the grading. We've talked a little bit about. I'm going to talk to Dave a little bit about collecting philosophy stuff now. But if there's something pressing that you kind of want to discuss, it's been a little quiet, like I said, in terms of hobby stories. That's why the interesting thing with the grading thing was interesting for a while. It was interesting to chat about for a bit. But it's been kind of quiet. Like there isn't anything crazy going on with as far as stuff. I feel like we're in a bit of a holding pattern. Prices are starting to creep back up on certain things, but like that's normal. That's market movements. Nothing new feels like it's happened recently in the last little while. It's been weird. Do you know what I mean?
Which is nice though too. I mean, everybody needs to just take a breath and be like, "Whew," before the next whatever happens. Because I mean, again, we had the Trout Superfractor sell out the golden auctions for like 3.4 million.
Yeah.
We had the LeBron
LeBron for just under 2 million just before that. Yep. But that's my point, though. Like, no big stories as far as I can tell. No big auctions. No big, like, super high profile. I guess the Pokemon thing sold a little while ago. That was a thing, but that's now a couple of weeks back. So it's like I said, nothing crazy like recently, the last week or two.
Mm-hmm.
Been kind of interesting. Usually there's something that comes up. Yeah, I guess this is our little break time. I'll put Steve's comments on here just real quick since he put them up. So he keeps the memorabilia cards integrated in the main collection. And that's fair. I do like having the Z Folio though, because it is nice to be able to have them sorted. Because when the last time we did that video, it was so nice to be able to go into the folder and be like, okay, for this year I got this year I got this. Memorabilia cards though, you gotta kind of keep them. I get the idea of having it all together. Patches not separately in their own boxes. That's fair. So 5 total boxes for his Terrell Davis collection, and that's fair. I think that's good. Yeah, that's kind of why I'm starting to sort some of this, because I've started to realize that it's a bit all over the place. If you ask me something that's in the Z Folio, I got you. If you ask me a memorabilia card, I know I have it somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let me put this comment up by Vinny. All right, take it on, Dave. I'll be right back in just a minute.
Yeah, it's for me. I've got, I think, one 3-row box of Amaro, one 3 or 4 row box of McCown. I think a 4-row of Mike Sims Walker. I think a 4-row of, or 5-row of Kerry Collins. I think I've got two 4 rows of Northcutt, and then of Johnson I've got man. I think 6 4-rows, 3 2-row gradeds, and then like a single row graded. So it's a lot. I wish, I don't know, at some point, and Carlos will bring it up in question form, so I don't want to spoil the answer, but at some point I'm going to dedicate a little more time to sorting that stuff out in a matter where it's going to be easier for me to just sort of rifle through stuff and pick up, or I can discern what I need to pick up, what I don't. Obviously, if it's a one-on-one, common sense says I don't have it. But like something over to 25, 50 to 100, a lot of times I think I don't have it. It's just because I don't go through the Josh Johnson collection as much as I should. I should look through that every couple months anyway and just re-educate myself. Yeah, those super shoe boxes. I mean, I used to buy 4 or 5 of those at a time, and I mean, I've got that one shelf. I've got I don't know how many 2-row grade, because I think it was not last year, maybe 2 years ago. I bought, I think 25 or 30 of them for like $60 shipped, and which was
These are boxes or holders?
boxes, like the 2-row
Got it.
graded.
Got it.
So I've got a ton of stuff, but I told them, I said I don't want to spoil the answer, but I think I'm gonna, at least with the Josh Johnson stuff, I'm gonna go the sort it in a different way at some point. Because looking at like JT's video, I mean, I sorted stuff and I went through stuff. I was up till I think 4 o'clock in the morning trying to sort.
That was the reason why I wanted to kind of pose this question. Is that what I'm finding a challenge is, it's not that I don't know I have it. My organization is good enough that I know when something comes in, I check it off properly, and I know I put it in the box. But it's kind of insequentially based on how I acquire it right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, okay, this isn't going to work if I want to find something specific. Because I've got cards, like I've got the card and I've got its parallel, like 40 cards away from each other if I bought them at different times. So I'm like, okay, this is not super organized. Like, these are all cool cards, all of these, but they're completely different cards. These are all be a player. So I started to sort them by brand right now. My idea right now is brand, and then I want to do year and subset. So that way, if you say be a player to me, I got the be a player section. You say 99 be a player, I go to that portion of it. There we go. I got the cards. It's a little easier for me to locate. That's kind of my thought process on it right now.
And for me, since I buy duplicates of pretty much anything that looks cool and is priced right, at some point I've got to go either get a couple 2 rows
Yep.
or whatever, and then just put, okay, here's 96 Bowman Chrome Draft, here's the refractor, here's the X-Fractor, one copy of each throughout, and then have like the note card that says, hey, 2006 is above this or in front of this. 2007, he doesn't have as much because he got hurt in 06. So that 07 year was a wash from Tommy John. So then in 08, he didn't have a ton either because, again, coming back from the injury, he came back, I think, June. So he just had the second half of the season, basically. But 09, 10, and 11, those will be definitely more years. But just to have the one card that is in the whatever you go off for a checklist, like the backup checklist of complete Josh Johnson cards, it'll be in the 1-2 box I need. Everything else will be. I go soft sleeve for like the low end stuff. I've got snap cases because I don't have. I'd have to buy like 3 or 4 cases of probably magnetics because there's so many patch codes it is. And right now that's not a feasible financial decision.
No.
So I've got snap cases. I've got like a couple screw downs. I've got varying degrees of cases, which I eventually would like to swap that stuff out too.
I was gonna say with your OCD, does it bother you having so many variations on the cases and stuff?
Sometimes because they're not all in order. I go by size. So you have the snap case, or you have the one I just showed for the wall, like that type of case. And then you have the snap case with a snap on the side. So that goes behind those. Then you have the top loads, and I sort of integrate the magnetics in with that. But yeah, it's very. I get frustrated with myself for not keeping up on that, but at the same time, I know that if I start diverting all my funds towards supplies, not having a local card shop around here to like be, oh man, got to get a box of them. I'm going to be spending. I won't be able to pick anything up for 1 to 2 years with just going through everything. And
could you imagine? It's like what happens? Like Dave wasn't able to buy this card. Why? The one touches. You guys don't understand what the one touch budget was this quarter. Oh my god! And he hasn't even taken them out of the cases. He just looks at the cases, going like, "This is what his has become."
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I'd have to redo. And what I like for a checklist, I had one up on one of the old computers I had, and that crashed.
Okay.
And so I'm just like, you know what? I typed the whole thing out through like 2011 because that's how particular I am. Because Beckett and Steve's done this with his Terrell Davis, and he's made note of it. He's like, this isn't in the order you'd think it'd be in.
Yes, that's right.
Because you have like the Bowman's Best, then you have the Bowman's Best Atomic Refractor because A comes before R.
Yeah, they would have been better off, and I understand why they didn't, because it would be such a pain. Like, it's almost like you got to have the manufacturer and brand. Like, I call it manufacturer and brand, and by the way, manufacturer could be the brand. Like Upper Deck's Upper Deck. But Upper Deck Black or Upper Deck Ultimate or Upper Deck MVP. MVP is the brand. Upper Deck's the manufacturer. But we say UD MVP. It's all together. But UD MVP should not be ahead of like a patch or something if it happens to have the wrong name. That was from like base Upper Deck. It's just weird. But I understand why they had that problem. But it's like, it's frustrating.
And then me being me, I'd be like, no, well, the refractor comes before atomic. Just because the refractor was easier to obtain theoretically. But yeah, it's just, and it's going to be with all the collections. And I mean, like you saw with the Dumba stuff, I mean, not Matt from the Essential Credentials. He's like, I want to see that video one day. And then he sees it and he's like, oh crap, you have a ton of him too. I'm like, there's substantial collections just laying around. I mean, it's when I collect, it's usually to the opposite end of the spectrum of which a normal person should collect. It's we I just you get so engrossed in it and you just want to pick everything up that you can. And that's why it's been nice with like Brodeur, Wah, and Forsberg. I think I picked up one or two Sakics. I want to pick up more, but at the same time, there isn't enough money in the pot to pick everybody up, and you got to be real selective on some of this hockey stuff because again, it's just costing a little more here, a little more there, a little more
Yeah.
there. It's like
Well, that's
so
that's
that's what,
where that's why I mentioned a couple of times about the stretching the dollar. I joke about
mhm,
it, but at the same time, like if it's something important enough to us, we'll push. That's why I showed those patches off the top. It's like, was I looking to spend that much money in one shot with one seller in over a weekend? No, I wasn't. Oh, but we got a virtual expo coming up. That's not that has no bearing on this.
yeah,
The cards available were of the quality, and I understood how long it would be since I would likely see another. Would I find them of the quality? Because they weren't just the patches. Because one thing is finding the patch would be tough. How
mm-hmm.
many colors do we see there, Dave?
On the
That's a three
was that
color
the
patch.
purple?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a three color
again.
patch.
Then you have the other one. That again, you don't see the. We were talking. That's going to be an all-star one from
Yeah.
mid
So
'90s,
the
maybe.
so they had rarity and they got a quality piece. So it
Mm-hmm.
meant they meant the collector was discerning, which means I'm buying from a collector that didn't just go find the first one they grabbed, hit the buy it now, and move on. They were like, no, I want that one.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's mine. Awesome, but I have to pay for that. They were discerning, so they held out for a quality piece, and it's like, well, now I got to pay for a quality piece. Unfortunately, there is a price to pay for that.
But at the same time, this is how I feel. I can't speak to you, but
Mm-hmm.
I getting the same feedback from you. Now that you've got the three color, you're like, I'm glad I spent extra
Mm-hmm.
on the three color, getting the one I wanted, the one I really think probably looks the best. Getting it from again a collector that took care of cards. I feel better doing that than okay. There's like a one color. I'll just deal with that and pay whatever less, like 25, 35% less.
Mm-hmm.
And then that one comes along and you're like, oh
Yeah,
crap.
there is, to your point, if you are a discerning collector and you care about the collection you're building, sometimes you'll pay the extra. Is it your
Mm,
first choice? No, I would rather have said, you know what, Carlos, you bought so much from me. You know what, $100 for you, $100. I've been like, awesome, thanks, buddy. But I
mm,
can't blame them because they also built this collection. They've got these cards that are like quality cards, and I'm like, I'm not gonna. I don't expect it for free.
mm,
So I understand that they asked quality price for quality card. Again, they had the premier one of one shield card, so it
mm.
means they've got cards that are quality. I can't argue. Let me make sure I grab a couple of comments here as well. Somebody just says, yeah, so he had it similar to the way Steve had it arranged with three 3,200 count 4-row boxes and two 2,500 count 3-row boxes for patches and autos. I haven't seen too many of the 2,500 count 3 rows in a while, actually. I remember them. I know what he's talking about, but I haven't seen them too much. But I know what he's referring to. But yeah, but here now he's got year manufacturer. I'm pretty happy with it. And then here, pack polls purchase from purchase. I'm big on the separation. Been marking the difference since he started back in '89, which is fair. Seb just made a nice comment about the winning formula, and I said, thanks, Seb, appreciate that. Seb is the big Hasha collector,
Okay.
so he's hardcore. Like he's got a good portion for the '90s, especially. He's got a big percentage of it for sure. But he's definitely in that category of crazy collectors for a player who played in the '90s, and he's got a lot of the Hashiks for that time period.
And there's a lot of nice ones from him too. I've tried to pick up some of them, and again, mostly the stuff that I've got of Brodeur, I'll look for Hasek,
Mhm.
Wah, obviously, Eddie Belfour, and Potvin maybe. But again, you start slipping down that slope, you're spending money on something as you've discussed before, as I've discussed before. You're spending money that okay, let's say it's a $50 card for Hasek. Well, I don't collect them. I like the card. That's $50 I could throw towards a Brodeur that I really want. So you got to be very careful when you start doing that and just like picking up whatever you like, unless again hit some sort of Powerball or Mega Millions, and money is of no object to you.
Mm. No, that's fair. I think it gets interesting because, and I'll kind of segue it into this section as well because I'd be kind of curious to get your take on this. Because this is kind of an interesting thing I've been thinking about the other day. Because at the same time that I bought these cards, I understood why I bought these cards. I understood why I paid the premium. All that was fine. I understood. Um, but as I build the collection, and I'll show this one since it was one of the last ones in the Be a Player section there. So this is the All Star emblem as well for that year. This is 0304. So they did a lot of nice designs with the All Star, especially. I was a fan. And again, anytime I can get a multicolor patch piece, win.
Mm-hmm.
Same seller. It's annoying. Like it's annoying, and I'm like, if I had the funds, what I'd probably do, Dave, is like, can we just save some time? How about I just buy the collection?
Yeah.
Just sell me the whole damn thing. You probably got duplicates. I don't care. Just send me the whole thing. Just ship it over. But and these ones I like. These ones are ones to keep an eye out on as well. This is a 0203 All-Star Edition. You got to keep an eye out for the golds.
Mm-hmm.
Nice multicolor patch piece as well. Technically supposed to be a jersey, but it's multicolored. And this one's from the 2000 jersey. Again, gold, out of 10. Out of 10 and out of 10.
I like, and again, they cracked it out of the Ultimate Collection.
Oh, okay.
Type.
Upside down. You got it. Perfect. That's a nice one.
BGS,
That's a good piece.
BGS, I want to be just like them.
Can I ask a question? Actually, real quick. I'll segue into the piece that I wanted to segue into, but let me ask you a question since you showed that card.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about, because BGS provided the holders for Ultimate for all those years for a while. The problem that I have with it, and this is just my opinion first, and then I'd like to get your take on it. I don't know how well those holders are going to last because I've definitely gotten them from some sellers and things where I know those holders are cracked. And at some point, they're going to break down. And really, the only indicator of what the rarity is the label. So basically, you'd be stuck doing kind of what you did there or kind of what was done there. Just out of necessity. Because I don't think Beckett would rehold them. Because it was kind of a custom holder for that specific issue. It's not a graded. Although they did do graded a couple of times. For a cup coffee. For the most part, it was just like this is a holder. It happens to be in a Beckett slab. So it's like not dissimilar to this, like the KSA or Beckett North. So, but basically it would be this. You take the card and you'd put it in there and then you'd have the label. But the label would say, oh, this one's out of 30. Or this was the gold out of 10 or the gold 1 of 1 or whatever. On the card, it doesn't say 1 of 1 anywhere. It says it on the label. That's the only spot. But then what happens if the holder gets cracked and over time it starts to break down? Then what? I don't know.
Yeah, I got lucky with that one. Having the little flip inserted in the back of the top load when I got it. But yeah, I can see that being a huge problem, especially if you got new people coming into the hobby that they have no clue. You could have a shady dealer or a shady collector just be like, hey, this is a Sawchuck Wah dual stick piece. Look, it's gold around the outside. That's a 101.
Yeah.
Because again, it's not like they're littered all over the internet where you can find these.
Well, I go out of my way to showcase the ones where they actually put the numbering on the back of the card. Because it was a rare thing. It was inconsistent. Some years they did and some years they didn't. Because I specifically showed you guys this one because number one, it's a cool card. But number two, they actually did put autographed out of 10 on the back and hand numbered it. Okay, at least it's hand numbered. I know this is out of 10, but it says so on the back too. So like verified, double verified. And if there's a second 1 of 10 out there, then we know there's a problem. Then at least we've got something to back it up. The label did put in so say their print run was 25,000 for Ultimate that year. You could then cross-reference theoretically. The problem is nobody has the list of the 25,000 cards. I don't know which one's which. This is 865 out of 25,000. Is that good or is that bad? Or I don't know. If you knew the sequencing and you knew which card and which player fell into which part of the print run, then you could correspond and say, okay, this should be a Dominic Hasek card. Why is it a Steve Yzerman? Uh-oh, something's wrong. But we don't have those records.
No.
So it's like, Okay, I could foresee that being a real issue down the road if some of those cases start getting cracked and they can't replace them, because then it's like, well, I can't do it. It's no doing of my own. I might have the label and be like, well, what do you want me to do? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I guess I have to make a custom holder for it because that's the only way. Because otherwise, I lose the label, and if I lose the label, that's my only like link to which one this is.
Yeah, that's the problem. And you'd think and you'd hope that Beckett they work with you, but again, right now they can't process orders. They're not going to be working with anybody with, well, this is cracked from something you did 19, 20 years ago.
I also think it was a one-time deal. It was like a custom thing they did, a deal they did with Be a Player at the time, where it'd be like,
Mm-hmm.
look, that was like a private thing. They
Yeah.
ordered the cases. We encapsulated it for them with a custom label. Go talk to Brian Price.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure that would be like their attitude. It's like, go talk to Brian Price. That's his
Yeah.
deal. His name's on the back of the card. Go nuts. Brian Price at least could answer some of the questions to it, but at the same time, he could be like, I don't have access to those cases. I can't replace them.
Yeah. What do you want me to do?
Yeah. Well, the thing, they would both be kind of in that same conversation. Be like, well, number one, it's not Beckett. Just like, it's not our responsibility. It was a private thing. We made the case, and when we gave it to them, it was in good condition.
Mm-hmm.
What happened over the last 20 years?
Yeah.
I can't blame them for that either. Like, I can't hold them responsible for it. It's somebody was careless down the road at some point. And I've definitely got some cases that have some cracking. I
Mm-hmm.
try to take care of it as best I can, but I know at some point that plastic is weak. It's been weakened, it's been compromised. It will break down over time. There will come a day where it's going to break on its own, and I'll be able to open it with my bare hands without having to put much pressure in it at all. It'll happen, just from pressure. But anyway, it's like, I don't know. That's kind of makes it interesting for me. Now, trying to remember exactly what it was that I was going to pivot to before we went down this rabbit hole. I think the last thing we were talking about, just trying to think here, we talked about how organized some of these cards. We had some
Mm-hmm.
input from everybody as well as part of that. And then we talked about the numbering thing. It was still related to the same main topic of player collecting, but now it's completely drawing a blank. Hmm. Okay. Yeah, I'll move on. It's okay. Um, actually, let me ask you a random question, Dave, and then see if it comes back to me while we talk. Um, you are somewhat of a wrestling fan, I hear. Rumors. Rumors through the grapevine. I've heard it once or twice. Uh, on one of the episodes of Being the Elite recently, they alluded to autograph cards, which are going to go out into a card series.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm also going to link it back to a previous video I made. See? Smooth transition. When I spoke to Karvin, one of the things we talked about was the comparison between WWE and UFC cards. And obviously, WWE has a thing with characters and all that. Now, AEW is a newer brand, a newer IP, but they are going to be releasing cards. Obviously, the autographs are for that. Number one, are you a buyer of said AEW product? Number two, and this is us speculating, where do you think the box price is going to fall on that? Is this going to be a high-end product, potentially? This is a guess for us. Do you think they would come out of the box with a high-end product, like a mid-range product? I don't think it's going to be a low-end product if you've got autographs. Even sticker autographs, I don't think of a low-end. I think the answers are middle or high-end. That's the question
Yeah.
that we have to ask.
Yeah, they're not gonna be like a WWF where they've been like the road to WrestleMania or they're like
I don't
face
think so.
comp.
I don't think it's worth their time. Not for a first product. You're not going to do that.
But I can't see them going as high as like Leaf
Mhm.
does with what is it, Ultimate Wrestling or whatever.
Yeah, and I think Upper Deck had Undisputed as well, which is a
Mm-hmm.
high-end product. That's a high-end product for them where you're getting memorabilia and hard-signed autographs. That's a higher-end product for sure.
I think Tops had. Do they have Transcendent?
Sorry, it was Tops. Yeah, it was Tops. I think Tops did Undisputed. Maybe. Yeah, I think Tops.
One Undisputed or Transcendent or whatever the big money one was.
Yes.
I can see that, but I can't see it with AEW. I think again I think they'll be doing more of like what Leaf did, like the
Mhm.
7 cards, 6 cards a pack or whatever it is. Where and you looked around that room, it's like, okay, yeah, you got the Bucks there, and I'm sure you'll have Cody Rhodes, and you don't have, and I love AEW, you don't have like an Undertaker
Mhm.
that doesn't sign tons and tons of stuff. You have the Bucks who sign pretty much everything. Christopher Daniels signs a lot. You're not going to have, and that's the only bad part there, where you don't have like the history you can pull from. You got a new company, but yeah, you got like Jake the Snake, you got some like an Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard. You could have a cool dual auto with them. You could have a quad auto with like them and the Revival or FTR. But are people going to throw down stupid amounts of money for, let's say you get maybe one or two duels per box plus like five other auto cards, you're going to throw down 250 for that?
Mhm. That's kind of what's leading me down the road of a mid-range, kind of a mid-range box product. So this would be maybe something that I would throw. Obviously, we're just guessing. This would probably be something I'd throw at Karvin because he might have some thoughts or insight. Obviously, they would know as a distributor. So here we go. See, look who's contributing. That's helpful right there. There you go. I think he's right though. Transcendent is the big one with the replica belt. That sounds familiar. That sounds right to me because I think I've seen an insert to that. So I think he's bang on. I think he's headed down the right track here. I feel like it's a mid-range product. So then I guess maybe the question is, I don't know what the price point would be. We'd be strictly speculating. I have no idea. Would you be a buyer? Would you be looking to buy boxes or packs of that stuff, or second or singles secondary market, or
Singles, I'd go after them because, again, and I haven't even picked up any of the stuff from that Leaf with Tanahashi, with Omega, with Saito. I mean, or Naito. I haven't picked up any of that stuff from Leaf Originals. That's what it is.
okay.
From like 1 or 2 years ago. And I wanted to do that, but it's just, again, I don't think of it. Like, I want to pick up a Kenny Omega because I like Kenny Omega.
Mhm.
I want to pick up Naito because I like Naito. I like New Japan as well, but it just, for me, when you collect so much stuff, that just sort of slips to the background. But yeah, I'd love to buy singles. I've got some Brian Danielson stuff. I've got AJ Styles stuff, but I'm not autos. I won't go goofy on my my gear in the wrestling collecting world is outdated VHS that I don't have,
Mhm.
DVDs, the figures, and again, I'm semi particular with them, and then actually meeting the wrestlers, and then
Okay.
getting an 8x10 auto, usually inscribed to my daughter. I know that kills value. I don't care
Mhm.
about that. But that's if we're together and we're at a show, she gets to meet this person. Then I can say either before the show that we've watched, hey, here's Undertaker. Haven't met him yet, but you know the Undertaker. So
Mhm.
when you meet him, it's a big deal.
Right.
So I mean, that's where I can sort of integrate her with it. But yeah, that's where I try to focus the money. Cards, it's never really been something for wrestling. I
Yeah.
know Garrett does a lot of that stuff now. A lot of these
That's
other
why.
guys.
That's the reason why I'm curious about it. Is that we're treading new ground here. There
Mm-hmm.
have been cards in the past. Some of the cards are starting to get some value. That's true. But part of the reason they're getting some value is because they were obscure for many years. The
Mm-hmm.
wrestling all star stuff from the early '80s with Hogan, and Ric Flair, and all that, and Ted DiBiase before he was the $1 Million Man, all that. Part of it is because it was obscure. It was kind of hard to get, and a lot of people didn't. Wrestling was niche enough that it wasn't happening all the time.
Mm-hmm. The the one thing I regret not doing it. There was one I sort of look, you know, every 6 months through the 2000s with that WCW set with the
Oh,
autographs where you can find Eddie Guerrero,
okay.
Macho Man, Benoit. You've got Miss Elizabeth. You've got a strong presence of A, popular wrestlers, and B, popular dead wrestlers.
Yes,
And
true.
now that stuff, you can find it. Good luck. And if you can find it and you do find it, you are paying huge money for that stuff. It's not like a couple $100 for Macho Man. You're probably paying close to or over $1,000. And that would be, I don't know if it'd be a steal at that price, but it'd be something like you're not going to find Macho Man stuff floating around. Now, people from the last 10 years that have passed in the last 10 years, you may
Mhm.
be able to find stuff of them. because there's been enough of the independent circuits, wrestlers going around meeting people where you can find something.
Mm-hmm.
People that died 2005 before, Benoit was a very private guy. He wasn't sitting out there and signing everything everywhere. Guerrero, same thing. He had a bunch of demons. So I mean, when you have these demons, it's not like you want to integrate yourself with the fans and the public and sit and sign autographs for hours.
Well,
You
it's
just
not like today where you have the fan expos, because at
Mhm.
WrestleMania they would do like the fan access where they would get most of the roster to rotate through and sign a bunch of stuff. So if you want autographed stuff from a lot of the modern stars, it's attainable.
Yeah.
It would be hard to say pick somebody that's like, oh, I can't find this person. You're not looking hard enough
Hmm.
because they were out there for a while. Becky Lynch became a lot more popular with her last couple of runs here, but her autograph stuff was available for years.
Hmm.
You could have gotten it pretty cheap. It wouldn't have been that expensive.
Yeah.
And she was still popular, but then obviously she became a lot more popular.
Hmm.
And then now all of a sudden it's a lot more expensive. But that's like every other part of the reason it's interesting is because it's more of a niche market. So I'm just curious how it goes. And it is telling to me that as kind of a wrestling super fan, you'd still struggle with the idea of buying a box. I'm
Hmm.
not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I'm just saying that makes it kind of interesting to see where the market will be. I would consider opening a box just for the novelty of it because it is the first year and it is AEW and it is a newer company and a newer product. That might hold. If you were of the investment, my hashtag invest mindset, maybe grab a couple of boxes, open a box if you want to for fun, and maybe keep one sealed.
Hmm.
It is a first year issue, depending on where it falls and how well it sells and all that. That might hold some value down the road, especially if the company continues to thrive down the road.
Hmm.
Because that inaugural class, you're going to get some characters that are going to be fondly remembered that are building up this brand right now that's new.
Hmm.
Because they're doing all that other stuff, the video game and all these things, and like it's new. It's the new hotness. WWE is around. They're the powerhouse, but they've also been played out. They've got a lot of tread on that tire. They're still around. They're still moving, but it doesn't have the same novelty anymore. They release sets every year, multiple
Hmm.
sets, different levels, whatever you want. You can get the cheap one, the expensive one. What do you want? So it's
And
just
for
something I
me,
threw out there. Just curious.
meeting, I've met the Bucks. I've met Kazarian and Christopher Daniels. I've met AJ Styles a couple times. Um, Jericho I have, and Cody Rhodes I've met. So I mean, for me, I've already met the guys. That's what I strive for. I want to meet these guys. Tell them, even if I'm just a mark that they don't want to hear from. At least I say, hey man, I remember Dash and Cody Rhodes. I was sitting in a hospital with meningitis. I wanted to find the Fox channel or whatever the
Mm-hmm.
CW channel that SmackDown was on because he had that
Yeah,
mask on
UCW.
at the.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I was asking people, find me this channel, and he
Mm-hmm.
just looks at me. He's like, what?
Yeah. Because it
Like,
was previously UPN, I think. I think it was UPN before that. Yeah. Okay, I kind of want to take a screen grab of this. Are you ready for it, Dave? Here we go.
oh boy.
Oh, 1 second. Here. There we go. Yes, Steve. Hashtag invest. I'll just pretend the long term wasn't there. All I saw was hashtag invest. Dave, you saw hashtag invest, right? You saw that.
I'm viewing it.
Yeah, yeah. He does put in the qualifier if you keep it sealed. No, but I'm actually serious. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if first year AEW might have some interest down the road if again the company continues to succeed down the road. Not a bad play. I'm throwing it out into the ether. You folks can do whatever you want with it as you will. I'm not recommending it. I'm simply stating that logically, I wouldn't be shocked.
Hmm. I'd have to see where the price point is, see what you
Correct.
get in the box, and
Yes. Totally.
if it was like sort of like the Leaf or like a cup type situation where you just get the box, get the cards, like 8 cards, most are autoed or whatever,
Mhm.
patches or whatnot. Then yeah, then I'll look, and if it's reasonably priced, I'd probably jump in at least one just to say I did it. Even if it's just one and I don't hold, but buy two and get and hold one and rip one. It's I don't it, it's always so hard with that, especially with wrestling, because I've met people that are I'm like, man, Jake the Snake. If I didn't have my daughter with me, he was a complete dick.
Hmm.
And my,
Sure.
my daughter was standing like right behind me. She was, I think, 4 at the time.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, hey, Mr. Roberts, how you doing? And just sort of like the gruff. And then she came out and I held her, and then all of a sudden it changed. I'm like, I get you want to be a little more pleasant when the children are around, but I'm not sitting there and trying to talk your ear off for 40 minutes over like the Rick Martel feud, and why'd you have to wear the see-through thing over your head at WrestleMania 7? I'm just saying, hey, I really love your promos. Your in-ring work was amazing.
Right.
You got the short end of the stick. Again, not going into his personal problems, but saying you should have been a champion at some point because you displayed what a champion should be. But yeah, it's just that gruff, and when you meet those people, you're just like, what do I want to dip into, or what do I want to invest into meeting them,
Yeah.
or trying to get their cards or something like that? It's just like, man, if you're a dick like Honky Tonk Man, I don't want to even meet you. I had a chance to meet him. I didn't even do it
Uh-huh.
because he is just a self-absorbed, self-righteous. I mean, it's just he's
Right.
not a pleasant person unless he's getting paid a lot of money.
Well, in fairness, and I agree, I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you. But just to be clear, you kind of have to already be of a certain personality bent to want to get into professional wrestling.
Oh yeah.
Especially when we're talking about that era. It's like it didn't necessarily what's the word I'm looking for? It didn't necessarily appeal itself to the best and brightest.
Oh yeah.
Like it wasn't like you're not getting saints in this business. Especially in the era that you're for the guys we're talking about here. Like that was a very specific era. And it's a I'm not shocked that there would be these personality types. It's tricky. Today, you get a little bit more of a softened edge on the business, a little bit more, because some of the people that come in don't really. Once kayfabe kind of died off, it wasn't. Okay, you know what? I got an analogy that we could do for sports here a little bit. You got to think back if you ever read old biographies and things. You got to think
Mm.
back to the early days of Major League Baseball. The people that were in Major League Baseball were borderline criminals. Like they were not people that you were. These are not your role models. These are not
Mhm.
your friends. These are not your own. They're people that happen to be pretty good at playing baseball. But they're also people that are borderline going to get arrested after the game. And that was an entire generation of players in
Mm.
the early days of baseball. You had to be kind of tough. So it means, would you have taken your kid to hang? Oh, hey, Honus Wagner might have been all right with the kids, but that was like the early 1900s. But would you have gone, hey, Mr. Capaz, and he might have decked you? Like that's the kind of dude he was. That's the kind of
Mhm.
folks that were in the game for a long time. The early days of the American League, if you go back again, read biographies. I'm not making this up. The early days of the American League, there were players getting barred from the game all the time for like carousing and causing problems. They were drunkards. They had drug problems. They had issues. Not nice people. Professional wrestling came from the carny world.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter how Vince McMahon puts a veneer on it. It's like he's a carny. At his core,
Mhm.
he's a carny. Like, and he invites everything related to that, everything associated to that. Today, not in WWE necessarily, but today you have the wrestlers who might be more inclined to create a Twitch channel. Again, not right now, but they have the inclination to look for those other avenues to be like, this is not my primary business. This is what I do for a living. This is how you know me. But hey, hang out on my Twitch. Oh, and while you're
Mhm.
hanging out on my Twitch, actually, I'm a pretty nice, personable person because I understand that we're going to interact here. But I'm interacting as me. I'm not interacting as insert character X.
Mhm.
So you're more likely to have a more pleasant experience meeting John Silver or somebody from AEW today than you would have had for Jake Snake Roberts whenever that was. It's
But
just
that's the thing
logical.
with this was what, it would have been like 6 years ago.
Yeah, but
So I
Jake
mean,
the
this
Snake
was.
Roberts is old school though. You know, Jake the Snake
Oh
Roberts is super old school. Like he is
yeah.
from the carny roots right from the
Well,
beginning because his dad was in the business.
yeah.
Like he is hardcore in the carny roots of it. Honky Tonk Man, same thing. Better or worse, he's hardcore in the carny roots. His roots go all the way down. So I'm not excusing it. I'm not
Oh yeah.
condoning it. I'm not excusing it. I'm just saying I understand. It makes more sense.
Yeah, you get surprised too with how many you meet that you're like, oh, I don't want to meet this guy,
Right,
and they're amazing, and the ones you're like, you have some sort of hopes for, even though you've heard they're just like worse than what you expected. I mean,
right,
I know Tito Santana is going to be a nice guy. He's been a teacher in elementary or high school for
sure,
I don't even know how many years,
sure.
so I know he's not going to be a dick. Um, Vern Gagne, I didn't meet him, but I met his son Greg. Great
Mhm,
guy. Larry the Axe Hennig, met him.
mhm.
Great guy. Piper, great guy. Sort of not standoffish or anything, but just real, not the character you see, obviously, in
Yeah,
like they
sure.
were and all that stuff.
Well,
You
Dave,
don't,
if you
you
have some cash, Virgil will hang out with you.
don't,
He'll also come and hang out at your house.
no, I want Virgil nowhere near me. You want to talk about leeches? That he's
uh, as soon as we were talking about wrestlers, it just made me say, let me just bring up Virgil. Because he used to be at the Toronto Expo. He used to have a little booth there. And he would talk about clickbait. He would literally put like $1 million man like in big letters, and it'd be like um, manager Virgil or something. Like I don't remember how it was phrased. It was phrased in a way where like have $1 million man in like big letters, and then Virgil like in small letters, so you wouldn't realize it's actually just Virgil. Like Teddy DiBiase's not there. He's nowhere near there. He's not going to be there.
ever.
But anybody who walks by that has like oxygen going through their lungs, he would like start trying to talk their ear off to try to like coax them into coming closer so that he can try to sell you something. I was like, oh my god, Virgil, really, bro,
Yeah,
he's special. Let's just put that out. He's special.
yeah, good way to term him.
Yes. Don't worry, Dave. I got the words. I got the good words for these situations. Like we'll go with special. Let's go with that. No, I just wanted to chat with you a little bit about that. I thought you might have some thoughts on it. Let me grab Steve's comment as well, just so we're clear. And I know you and Steve talked about this a little bit. Here's the thing: I like Magic the Gathering. I've played the game. I actually think the art on the cards is cool. I like it. Those early year Magic the Gathering cards, though, have definitely appreciated. I think Magic the Gathering's problem is that it never fully exploited the opportunity it had. It had a moment in the early 90s because if you remember, Magic the Gathering was on ESPN2 for a little while. They had Magic the Gathering tournaments, like the World Championship, whatever, on ESPN2.
Hmm.
Because that was the era where ESPN2 was looking for anything we can air. Well, if you get on there and you can take advantage of it, you can expand the reach of your game.
Mm-hmm.
They did an okay job, but it's like they missed an opportunity where it's like, no, if you guys had taken advantage of it, there was a stretch there where poker took advantage of coverage. They were on ESPN. They were on the World Poker Tour still exists. Those things still go. The World Series of Poker still happens. By the way, there's still a lot of money in it. Just to be clear, there's still a lot of money in it. But the poker boom was huge. When it was there, it was on TV all the time. You could watch, you could hear anything you wanted. Like they had shows on shows. Magic the Gathering was fun as a game to play. Poker is fun to play as a game. I enjoy playing poker. But they had their moment. When that moment came, they took full advantage of it and they made a lot of money. A lot of people made a lot of money on that. They did.
Hmm.
But it's an opportunity. So Magic the Gathering could have. It was never going to be a sport because it's a card game. Doesn't matter how we want to position this. It's a card game. But
Yeah.
poker for a stretch of time was almost locally. Sportsnet here, which was our sports network, one of our sports networks, they were airing poker all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Poker was getting better ratings than some of their quote unquote real sports. People watch entertainment. They just want to be entertained. Well, here's the thing poker has characters. Some
Yep.
of the people in poker are weird. They're weird. You could go in there, Dave, and do something from one of your videos where you're dancing in the middle of the table and they'd be like, yeah, we saw that last Thursday. Like, you're not bringing anything to the table. It doesn't matter how weird you are. There's probably somebody weirder at your table.
Yeah, there's our Fox Sports Net would play that. I don't even know how many hours of it. You mean you'd have
Right.
like the Minnesota Twins game in the afternoon, the replay from the day before.
Mm-hmm.
Then at like 3 p.m. to like 6, it'd just be like 3 hours of poker. And like ESPN would have it. Like Norman Shad would be sitting there and talking about on the river and all this other stuff. And it's just like, yeah, you learn about it. But for me, again, I don't want to watch somebody play cards. I love chess. I don't want to watch somebody play chess.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can't sit there and watch somebody just sit and look at the chessboard. I know they're trying to formulate not just that move, but 3 to 4 ahead at
Yep.
least. At the same time, though, it's just like I'll watch paint dry. I can appreciate the chess game because I love it, but at the same time, it's just something I can't sit there and watch because what are you gonna do when he pulls out the rook and goes down to the queen? Oh, you can't move this way. The bishop's there. Oh,
You know what's
their
interesting,
queen.
Dave, though, about what you're saying? I understand your point, and it's valid. It's very right. There was a time in the 1960s where people would actually watch chess matches.
Yeah.
They'd sit in the room and just be like, they'd literally be watching the two guys sitting there playing chess. And they'd be like a room, especially like world champion against world champion or something like that. Like Bobby Fischer would have these exhibitions where and it was the thing. It's a very different era. I think
Yeah.
it would be very difficult to pull off in the smartphone era, unless can we bet on the next move? Live betting chess, Dave.
No.
Live.
People live bet on chess.
Don't think for 1 second it hasn't crossed somebody's mind. Don't think for
Oh,
1 second.
I'm sure it's out there somewhere.
Oh,
But
I bet it is. Yeah, I bet it is. By the way, guys, just so we're clear, part of the I'm just chatting with Dave right now. If you guys have a question about anything at all, by all means, maybe I should remind you, just so we're all clear, all on the same page, everybody watching and listening. For the most part, like I said, there hasn't been too much in terms of newsworthy stuff. Not a big auction, not like a big new thing that's been created in sports cards. There's not a lot. Dave has been very generous to come in and pinch hit for me. I'll probably try to get something set up with him later on. At some point, Dave and I will go and have a professional wrestling discussion on his channel. That'll be a separate conversation. I just wanted to bring it up because there was a card element to it. That's the only reason I brought it up, because it did match. And then right now we're just sitting there chatting for a little bit. But if there are no like major questions, Dave and I'll chat for a little bit longer, then we'll call it a day. That's how it'll go. Because I honestly forgot where I was going. It was related to player collecting and what we were talking about earlier, storage and how we sort these things out and everything. I just don't remember exactly what it was. Like I was trying to figure out what exactly it was, but it's completely left me. It happens. It's been a long week, unfortunately. So the point of Sunday, the reason I still want to do the Sunday live stream is because this is fun. At least we can do it. So here's what I'll do. If you guys come up with any questions, by all means, feel free to. Dave and I'll just chat for a little bit. But let me grab a couple of the UD Black cards. Since we're here, I'll grab a couple. So we got a bit of a mix and a blend here. So what do you got on the TV on your end?
I'm watching the Winston Cup race from Phoenix from like 2 weeks ago.
Really? Okay. That's what the dearth of live sports will do for you. Okay.
Well, no, I don't have like a cable or satellite because again, that it's gotten so expensive for stuff that I really haven't. I mean, it's been about 5 6 years I've had that.
Okay.
So NASCAR channel on YouTube usually replays or has their full race like a couple days later.
Oh, okay.
And I probably just go away from all the ESPN.com or anything else, and then hopefully I'll see the race new to me in its entirety, and or just space it over a couple days. And I already know who won the championship, so I mean it's not anything new, but it's something just to put on the TV.
Live the dream, Dave. Live the dream.
Oh, I'm trying.
There you go. All right, so let's do this one. And I'll get to Joe's question. He's trying to be controversial. I like it. Okay, so let's do 2009, 2010. So UD Black, one of the things they do is they do acetate cards, they do see-through, and they also do paint pen particularly well. These are the kind of the things that they've made their niche. By the way, any of you who didn't catch the conversation I had with Karvin Cheung, UD Black was originally going to be Exquisite. That was going to be the original name for Exquisite. They borrowed the name and then later on used it for UD Black products going forward, etc. Different product. Okay, so this one is the UD Black kind of Jersey Auto. It's kind of cool. It's see-through as well. So actually, if I put my hand directly behind it, it's kind of convenient, so it makes it easy. It is completely see-through with the dual jersey. So this is out of 50. Pretty nice card. Again, that's the acetate one, so they use the plastic on that. That's cool. David liked this one. This one's a good one that kind of intertwines. They came up with called Dual Game Night. So Dual Game Night Ticket autographs. So this is a good one. Your boy.
Broder.
Badura Medano. So dual autograph out of 25. And you got a nice gold paint pen. And you got a little bit of reflective foil as well. This is an excellent card. When I saw this one, I was like, must have. It is a beautiful looking card. Two pretty good players, pretty solid. So I think that's based off of the Stanley Cup final, the '99 Stanley Cup final, where the Devils did win against the Stars. But you got a nice dual auto out of the deal, so no complaints for me. Pretty good. And I'll put this up from Joe. See, Joe, I appreciate you trying to contribute here. That's good. Aaron or Mays? Small question. Okay, I'll actually answer this seriously. For me, I'm going to say Aaron only because I have to give him points on longevity. He just kept it going year after year after year after year, and in the end became the all-time home run leader. Yeah. Mays, like at his peak. Now, this is where I measure guys differently. Mays at his apex, I argue, would be the better player. But Aaron's thing is that he stayed great and he stayed consistent and he kept going and going. And in reality, if you go look, this is where I have a little bit of fun with it. I'm not going to compare the two players because they're not the same. But if you go and look at the first 2 or 3 seasons of Hank Aaron and go look at the first 2 seasons of Vladimir Guerrero Jr., there's actually a very small difference statistically between the two, which seems odd. And I'm not suggesting to you that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. will become Willie Mays, because Willie Mays was a waif. He was a thin guy. And he was developing and he was growing into, and by the way, age-wise, they were very similar when they started playing. But the difference is Willie Mays kept harnessing his game. He kept getting better and he kept going and going until the day became that he became Hank Aaron. And then he kept going until even in his mid to late 30s, he could still hit home runs, which helped down the road as he kept creeping closer and closer to Ruth. And he had to meet a lot of adversity. Like, there's a lot of things with Willie Mays. Sorry, I keep saying Willie Mays. Hank Aaron. The other thing, though, with Hank Aaron that I have to give credit for is all-time home run leader and 3,700 hits. Mm-hmm. That's extremely impressive. That is extremely impressive. It means he wasn't just a home run guy. He was also able to get his hits, period. Mm-hmm. So he was a great hitter. That's why the best hitter of the American League and the National League, I think, or the best hitter in baseball, is called the Hank Aaron Award. That's not a mistake. That's not an accident. He was a great hitter, period. Power, or otherwise. He was a great hitter. So for me, it's Hank Aaron. For that reason alone. But if you want to argue Willie Mays because he could also steal bases like a few others could and he was a great fielder, I'm not going to fight you. It's a good point. Pride of the Nation. So again, we're using the gold paint pen. We're using the good old manufactured patch on that one. And there's a bunch of these. So that's Pride of the Nation from 0910. Here's Pride of the Nation from, what is this? 1516. Again, Pride of the Nation. They kept going to the well on that one. Mm-hmm. This is Lustrous Ink. This is out of 49. Here's a silver paint pen. But I like the foil on that.
Yeah, that foil pops.
That is, yeah. That's what I say. Like, UD Black did some good stuff. And actually, this piece is see-through a little bit. Just a little. A little bit of acetate. So I don't know if you can see that a little bit. But it's a good combo. Like, design-wise, they did some good work. This one was Obsidian scripts from a brand new version of UD Black, but it's a little bit lazier. Not trying quite as hard. Still doing a little bit of it, but like, we're starting to run out of ideas. Get the paint pen. Put a nickname on there, it'll change it. And this is the newest Pride of the Nation. The newest version.
Yeah, Dumba's got one of those.
They're nice looking cars, like I said. I'm not knocking them, but I don't know. After about 3 or 4 iterations, it gets a little bit kind of interesting. What's this here? Hold on. I want to see Vinny's comment.
This is still like maybe a state flag or something. I know it wouldn't be Pride of the Nation, but...
Could you imagine? It's like Pride of Michigan. Amazing. It'd be amazing.
People flock to it.
No, I take my baseball seriously, Joe. It doesn't come up on my channel a lot, but when I get a chance to actually talk like classic baseball, bring that question because I'm actually happy to take some time to talk about it because I love. Baseball's still my favorite sport. I collect hockey, obviously, but baseball's still my favorite. It will always be my favorite. Despite what Major League Baseball tries to do to suck the joy out of it for me. And they're trying. Every year they try really hard. And they've succeeded for the most part of taking the joy out of it. I still enjoy the playoffs, but the rest of it's a slog.
Mm-hmm.
It is a slog. And this is a guy who's had the streaming package for like 15 years. I can see every baseball game, but you've made it a slog. It is so painful. I want to enjoy it. I want to enjoy it, but they make it so difficult. I just don't know.
Yeah, I'm not. Again, I agree, or I can see where like the analytical part has really been sewn into the old school fabric of the game, but it's everything. The shifts. Then we're gonna sit and rub the ball, and we're gonna make sure that shift goes on. Then oh nope, get the left-hander that throws 89-mile-an-hour slurve out of the bullpen instead of our right-hander.
Oh, referencing the slurve. I like that, Dave. I like you brought up the slurve. Bonus points to you, sir. Bonus points to you.
It when Mark Burley would pitch, even if he didn't like the White Sox, guess what? That game was done in like 2 hours, 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're quickly pacing yourself. You're not sitting there and watching if a butterfly flies by or somebody up in the stands has like a mirror that's doing their makeup and it catches you in the eye or whatever. It's a quick pace game. When you slow it down, when it's tough enough for just an average fan that may not know all the nuances of the game to keep up with it, you're not helping anyone out at all.
Yeah. So let me give you guys a quick point of just to illustrate to the best of my ability that I can just how much I actually enjoy the game of baseball. One of my favorite things the last couple of years, this year obviously I wasn't able to do it for obvious reasons, and I'll make clear why it is in a second. One of my favorite things was going to check out inter-county baseball games. Inter-county baseball is a Canadian league that we have here. It's semi-pro. They literally play out of baseball diamonds that I played in when I was in Little League. These ones have further fences, so they've actually got decent dimensions, like proper dimensions. They're adults. They have to play with actual dimensions. Center field needs to be 400 feet. Like you can't play like at 320. That's not legit. It's got to be 400 feet to center, about 310 to 320, left and right field. You're playing in proper dimensions. Outside of that, though, it's a chain link fence stadium. Anybody can walk by and see the game because you can see right through the chain link fence.
Mm-hmm.
But they have the semi-pro team, and they do have tickets and stuff. And what they do, which is awesome, is usually, if you're lucky, you'll get, like on a nice summer evening, you'll get like 80 or 90 people watching the game. They'll buy a ticket. They'll come in and watch the game. You can set up your lawn chair and be like all the way around the diamond, watch it. They'll have like a PA announcer, like one person working the PA. They'll have like a tire race in the 7th inning as a little thing just for fun. And they'll give away little prizes and stuff. They've got some swag. They've got a swag tent with hats and shirts and stuff that you can buy. And they'll have a hot dog vendor. And this is the extent of your experience. This is what we're talking about. We're talking about semi-pro baseball. And it's so much fun. And the game's fast. And you know what? These players are still pretty good. Some of the players who play in the inter-county baseball, Paul Quantrill, who was a major leaguer, played in the inter-county baseball league. After his career was over, he went to go still play. He still wanted to play. But he was a former major leaguer. So it's not like they got nobody that can't play. It's like, no, these guys are not major league level. These guys are not going to be in the high minors or whatever. Still decent players. Still decent baseball. If you like baseball, that's baseball. Mm-hmm. The ticket was like $5 or $6. Sit down with your chair and watch the game with your friends. And go have a beer. Oh, and it's Canada. The beer section is fenced off. You've got the beer pavilion. But you can still go there, have your beer, and watch the game. It's all right there around the diamond. It's fun. But that's the kind of baseball I enjoy. I enjoy minor league baseball. I enjoy inter-county baseball. If we had a AAA team around here, that'd be awesome. I'd go watch them. That's baseball. That's baseball to me. Major League Baseball has tried to make it not baseball, and that annoys me as a baseball fan. Every time I see a commercial break, it annoys me. Yeah. Especially when I'm paying to be live in the stadium, and I'm like, I don't need to see commercials. I'm not on TV. Can you keep playing? I'm here. I can see you. You can pitch. Go ahead. Do it. Put it on tape delay. I don't care about the people on TV. I want to watch the game. I'd like to get out of here in 2 hours. We can do it. I know we can do it. It's inexcusable to me. It's inexcusable. But yeah, no, Joe's just making the point that I was making basically. I think Aaron is underrated. And at some point, he's still alive, fortunately. At some point though, when he passes away, well suddenly it'll be like an aha moment for the entire sport of baseball. It'll be like, oh, wait, he was great. For a long time. Actually, really great. Huh. Why don't we think of Hank Aaron? We think of Mickey Mantle, we think of Babe Ruth, we think of Willie Mays, we think of a bunch of other guys, we think of Mike Trout. But we don't think of Hank Aaron. And that's disappointing. Yeah. And this is the key point here, especially the magnitude of overtaking Ruth. Yes, yes, yes. Absolutely. Yep. First discovering playing baseball and coming to Augusta must created the game. The thing is, yeah. The thing is, Joe, it will always be my favorite. It is always the one I have the most passion for, just because it was the first one that I followed with real intensity. It gets hard for me to get excited. I'll watch games. I'll watch hockey games. I'll watch football games. I'll watch some baseball games. It's hard for me to get super excited about watching a lot of things to the degree that I did when I was younger and I was watching my baseball games, because it was like the only thing I was paying attention to. That was it. Spall just interjects here. My best baseball experience in coaching a Pee Wee team. Got third in the City of the Year in tournament. Absolutely. The thing is, minor leagues and like kids baseball is still baseball. It's fun. When I was in playing Little League, Carlos Sr. was an assistant coach one year. It was one of the most hilarious things in the entire world. Carlos Sr. never really played baseball, organized baseball, but he played stickball and stuff like that. So he understood like basic fundamentals. So ironically, he was actually a pretty good teacher of basic fundamentals. He actually did understand. And also because he didn't have formal coaching, it actually was easier for him to explain it to everybody. You're like, no, do this, do this, do this. This will help you. You want to throw the ball straight? Do it like this. And then he could grab the ball and demonstrate. Throw it. And then he'd be able to repeat. The thing with him is if he threw like batting practice, he'd be able to repeat the pitch 100 times. And it's like, but you have no formal training in this. No. You never really played organized baseball. No. But I know how to throw something. The principle is not, this is a baseball. I'm going to throw it. You want me to hit that spot? That's what I'm going to do. This is how we do it. And you can do it over and over and over, and he would just keep hitting the same spot over and over and over again. But that was, for him, it was like, what is the action you're trying to do? How do you do it? Mm-hmm. It made sense to him. So then when he went to go play in the coach's game, he almost jacked the first pitch out of the park, just in his first swing. And all the other ones were looking, I was like, but didn't you not play this? It's like, yeah. But it's a bat. You're trying to hit the thing. You hit the thing. That's what you do. That's all you have to do. It wasn't that complicated. It was simple. It was a game. So when we would play catch, that's how it would work. I go and play catch in a parking lot because I wanted to catch so that the bouncers wouldn't throw me off. I'd have them throw the ball so it would bounce off concrete. Mm-hmm. And when it bounces off concrete, it bounces off so fast you got no time. You got to react, catch the ball, or it hits you in the face. Those are your choices. So you better respond. So when we get to the ball, when we get to the game, if a ball took a weird bounce, it was slow by comparison to bouncing off concrete. Those are bounces you can't predict. A field, you can predict that. That's easy. So make it harder. You have Big Rig Beer in your area. Doesn't ring a bell. Is that an American brand, Steve? Big Rig Beer? I don't know. It wouldn't shock me if we probably have. I guess maybe put it a different way. Is it more of a microbrewer or is it a larger like manufacturer? So I think that'll help because I know they get a lot of the bigger ones up here, but it kind of depends on which brand it is, right? So let me show off this card here. I was kind of holding it. It's not Be a Player, but it's one of my favorites. Let me ask you this, Dave. Do you like these kind of cards? So this is the SP letter marks.
If it's the true, and I think that is a true one of one, but the Modano would be 6 letters.
So this one is actually, they did letter marks here on this one, and this one is autographed letter patch. I'll tell you in a second. No, these ones are manufactured. This is 0607 SP game used. This is out of 50.
I like the actual, like from the nameplate.
Yeah, well, this one is part of the nameplate, but obviously it's manufactured, so.
Well, yeah, I mean the actual game used nameplate.
Sure. Yeah.
I've got, I think SP authentic. I think it's 09 at Josh Johnson at, and all his are to 27. And then one of the tops update has like what is it, in the name, I think,
Mhm.
and they're all 101 game used ones.
Okay.
So
No,
I
I will.
don't.
I agree with you. I'll favor like a game used for sure. 100 times out of 100. Those are tough though because they
Mhm.
don't because they've gotten to the crush of manufactured. Although, actually, you're reminding me of something, and I think I can show you. But let me actually do one thing here. Since Steve brought up the question, I love that we actually have an answer. This is great. Okay, so here, just Steve mentions, spent 2 weeks in Canada on business and drank the crap out of it. Okay, you know what's great? So, just in case I didn't make it clear earlier, so this is my younger brother. This is Roberto, and he works at our LCBO. LCBO is Liquor Control Board of Ontario. So, if it's a question of whether we have beer X or Y, he would be able to answer that question because he probably stocks it. So Ontario craft not always talking great quantity depending on the shops. We got an answer. I accept this. I accept this resource. We got resources, Dave. Come on, we got to use the resources we have, right? Hey, listen. If you know a guy, all right. We had county league back in the day. I rode the pine and warmed up two pitchers for 2 years. That's fair. That's fair. No, absolutely. No, it was good. I like that. I like that Roberto was actually still hanging around. I love that he decided to chime in. It's like, wait, I know the answer to that. Big Rig beer. Yeah, I got it. I probably stocked it the other day. True. Yeah. That's fair. Okay. Oh, and let me grab this one from Joe here. COVID hanging around. I think I'm most likely to attend baseball games. Yes, baseball. Now, ironically, baseball is probably best situated to be able to properly space out people. Probably in a baseball field, you can space them out pretty good. You can be like,
Mhm.
all right, you guys can hang out over here. You guys can hang out over here. We'll separate you out a little bit. As long as they don't try to do anything crazy with concessions, you can probably make it work. You can have different concessions for different sections, and you're probably good because you can run a baseball diamond at lower capacity. It's not
Mhm.
probably not what Major League Baseball wants, but I don't think you want 30 or 40,000 in a stadium right now. That'd be way too packed. It'd be uncomfortable. I wouldn't go to a game in that circumstance. Like I wouldn't be comfortable with it.
No.
It wouldn't be any fun. So it wouldn't. I don't know. I don't think that would work for me. But I do agree that they probably have the best shot at being able to try, at least having a smaller capacity. I just don't know. I just don't know. All right, so let's do this. We're at about 3.5 hours. About standard work, Dave. Standard work. Yeah. So let's do this. You actually reminded me about something about the patch, about the letter patch. I think Leaf had one that was game used. I want to double check because it's right here on the showcase. I'm going to grab it. And
Either
then if
that
that's the
or
case,
in the game.
what's that?
Either that or in the game, maybe superlative?
Yeah, but Leaf did also their own version of in the game used later on. And I think they
Yeah.
have one, and I think I've got one. So I'm going to grab it and see if it's true. I'll check on the back and see if it's true. I think it is. I think it's game used. And I think it fits the criteria that you were talking about, and it'll be a good example. In the meantime, it'll take me about 10 seconds. Any other cards you want to show off that you got left around you? Or I don't think you're exhausted. I wouldn't suspect so.
I'm getting there. It's I know I've got to be up at 3 in the morning, so that's gonna
Yeah.
be a
Well, we're about to wind down anyways. This is going to be the last thing I'm going to show.
we have an Allen and Genter on the back there. It's a rip card. Unripped as well. Because you can see on the top, rip it or keep it, and inside here there can be a extended high series mini or a wood one of one or a plate or some red ink bottle. I think I've got 3 or 4 copies total of all the Josh Johnsons. I never rip them. I bought a couple ripped, and then these ones, I think these were about $100 if you sent in like the mail in stuff way
Okay.
back in 94, 95.
Oh, okay.
So that's Lindros, and I mean I've got to find some sort of beret. I mean, the back is
I
pretty.
like that with the logo on the back as well.
Yeah, that's in the background of that picture. It's real nice, especially like the old Canucks logo. And then somebody seemed to pick up more than I want to, but he's cheap and he's. I think it's because he traveled around so much.
Well, in
Doug
his
Neal.
heyday in Toronto, he wouldn't have been cheap.
Oh no,
Gilmore was
no.
super popular in Toronto in his heyday.
And then one because I know Vinny. I think Vinny had asked me on Instagram about him too.
Oh, nice.
So
So which product is that exactly?
it's like Top's finest
Yes.
94, 95, but it's not the regular. I don't know if they had it like on the back of the label or the packaging,
Okay.
where you sent in like 100. There's like 95, 99, something like that, and you had, I'm sure, an amount of wrappers sent them in. And I don't. I think you might just got a random player. I want to say there's between like 18 and 30 cards in the set.
Okay. So it's kind of a mail-in deal with that one.
Yeah, and it's a metal. It's a heavier card. It's a metal card, so it's sort of like the Pinnacle Express
Yeah.
type.
And Jeremy
Heavy
just makes a comment on that. Yeah. I wouldn't suspect they would fit in regular top loaders. As soon as you take a metal card, no chance. You got to accommodate it a little bit differently, for sure.
Mhm. I was thinking
So,
maybe, hopefully, a magnetic, like a deeper one, maybe like 100 to 130
yeah,
points.
yeah. I would think so. For a magnetic, probably, yeah. Although
Yeah,
it's funny you put the metal card in a magnetic. Don't get it stuck. Don't get it stuck. I believe it. Yeah, so Jeremy had the Solani and got frustrated with the move it. That's fair. Okay, so let me do this one here. We'll finish off with this. I got 3 cards left and we'll finish off with this. Okay, so this was in the game used hockey, like I said earlier. This is 2019-2020.
okay.
So it's relatively new, but these are game used, so they do label them as such. So this is a piece of game used memorabilia, and these were letters. So this one's 3 of 5. So they did keep these fairly limited. So that's kind of good. Although I don't know how they arrived at 5 specifically. You know, Mike and Medano, neither one of those fit under 5, but I'm not going to question it. I have no idea. And then we'll finish off with 2 ones that I grabbed from the cup. So signature patch. Love that. When you can get a proper patch and nice clean auto, always a plus, always a bonus. Signature patches are good. And then this one was a recent one. Cup Foundations. You get the quad patch going on. Out of 5, pretty good.
Yeah, any of those cup cards that are like 5 or less, they're incredible. I mean, especially when you can find them, even if it's one now, when something drops.
Yeah.
With recent times, it's.
I got the hologram there, eh? Is that the 75th anniversary?
Yeah.
All right, I can see it. What, 10,000? Yeah, that's right.
Who had this? That Steve and I reference the seller a lot on during our podcast thing,
Okay.
where TNT, a guy out of New York, consigns for I don't know how many people, but I mean, you find such a dearth of just randomness that if there's something out there, and it might not be the highest high end stuff, you'll probably find it over the weeks or months if you religiously just like look at his listings when they end, because I think he's got Thursday and Sunday.
Okay.
So I mean, he had a couple of those, and then I mean, it's not high end, but again, when I like I know the mayor of Canada, who Jeremy often references, would love that card with the Cape Fear on the Bertuzzi. But I mean,
Yeah.
it's.
I like good old fashioned Dufex, man. If you get
Yeah.
Dufex, it's a winner for me.
And I got the
Big fan of
Saku
Dufex.
like that too. But I mean, it's stuff like that always always will suck me in and just be like, oh, do I need it? No. Do I
You have
want it?
you have too many things you love, Dave. You have too many things you love and not enough money for that.
Yeah, it always comes down to the almighty dollar.
It does. It does. Let me grab a couple of these comments here and then we'll wind down here real quick. So let's go here. I'll make sure I give these guys their second as well. They were talking back and forth about the baseball. 11 pitch at bat, missed by a homer by 2 feet and then struck out. I know those feels. Much better deck hockey became popular in the 90s. Fair enough. And then Jeremy was replying back about the cards that you were talking about, the top's finest cards. So apparently, according to him, they don't fit in a magnetic either. So that's a problem. I don't know. There's something where they'll come up with these cards, and I'm like, what are you supposed to put them in? Sometimes it'll be like, we don't have a holder for that. And then I have to come up with some weird contraption to like put it together. It's not good.
It's gonna have to be like a Ziploc bag or something.
I've done that with some cards that are like weirdly shaped or configured. Like I'm like, I don't know what else to do. I don't. The other holder is either too big, too small, or too awkwardly shaped, and I'll figure it out at some point. Like I'll work on it and I'll figure it out. But I don't want to have to come up with a custom solution for one card. That's not really very cost effective. I don't want to do that. I've seen some folks that came up with like custom solutions for holding, like, for my graded cards, I have this custom box. That's cool. That's fine. I get that. That makes sense. You can house a multitude of cards in it. I'm not coming up with a custom solution for one card. That isn't going to happen. No way. No. Sounds good. Okay, so I think in terms of showcase, I got other stuff, but we'll save it for later. It's all good. Thanks, Dave, for pinch hitting. Appreciate you.
Absolutely.
And thanks to the chat for hanging out. And like I said, I think now, against my better judgment, I think I'm going to have to make the Sunday thing a regular thing. I kind of like it. It's kind of fun. Especially if we can time it out. I'll see if I can get. I don't think I'll be able to get a meet next week. I might take next week off. We'll see, because they do have the virtual expo. So I think most people are going to be doing the virtual expo. That doesn't mean I wouldn't do one, but if I do, it's going to be a little more streamlined. I might just hang out and just go through some cards. Again, if people are kind of winding down from the expo, I might do that. I'll play by ear. We'll see. If you get a chance, check out your Instagram. I sent you a couple of links. The other thing also is that, let me know if you do want to do the wrestling one. We can definitely talk about it. Yeah, and then we'll figure it out. And again, you figure out the day that you like, and I'll do my best. I think we should be able to figure it out. We'll accommodate. I don't think it'll be a problem. So absolutely awesome. 9-card lot. I assume it's the Dufex card. I think. Absolutely, Paul. Thanks for hanging out. Was that a dealer only issue? The Dufex card you had there?
No, I think he's referring to those Topps Finest ones.
Oh, okay, got it.
I'll have to look in the back. I know that was something I wanted to look at before I went on, because I wanted to show those, because again, people have seen them, but again, with all the iterations of different cards over the years, those are ones, especially the metal stuff, that usually gets shuffled way to the bottom because people, it's metal, it's heavier, you can't store it. How good is it? So yeah, they're nice cards though. I like them. I mean, like to store them some other way though, but yeah. They're Topps did it right that year. Again, not $100 for them, but
so maybe we'll make that the final thought here, because I think that's a good example of Dave has shown off some cool high-end cards. I've shown off some high-end cards. We've shown off some rare cards, some more common cards, a lot of stuff in between. The big point, though, is stuff like what you were talking about there with the Topps Finest and the Dufex card and all that. There are still cards in the hobby, regardless of what sport you collect, that don't have to break the bank, that you can still get some enjoyment from. And maybe, as collectors, we need to stop whining about how expensive certain things are, because I do understand, I really do. But maybe we need to start then putting in some work and finding some of these hidden gems that are still available to us and picking those up for our collections. Because then we can still enjoy ourselves. We can still find something we like. It can still be fun. And that's kind of maybe the last thought I want to give to everybody on that.
Yeah, there's you can find whatever you want. It just depends on what you're going to do with the shovel. If you're going to leave it laying on the ground, you're not going to find anything. You're willing to dig and put in the work, you're going to be a much happier collector, where, again, the sting from certain losses and auctions or whatever, that may hurt for a while, but you will find something if you look hard enough. that appeases your collecting needs and wants.
I think that's fair. I think that's a good final word. So I'll close it off here. So Jeremy's just suggesting that make next week happen. Let me see what I can do. I'll do my best. I'll do my best. So if I can come up with something, it is a little more fun when we can. It is a little more because it's one of those things where I don't have a problem sitting here talking for a period of time. That's not an issue. But at the same time, it's more fun being able to bounce it off somebody, being able to get some other ideas, being able to get because sometimes you can think of something that hey maybe I didn't think of that because I can interact with the chat as well. But it's one of those things like there's the delayed reaction. The answers come, but they don't come quite as fast. But we'll see what we can do. We'll definitely try to think it through. So excellent final thought. I agree completely. And keep on treasure hunting. I think that's a good final word. Thanks to Dave. Oh, sorry. Last thing I'll do here, and this is just kind of what we talked about earlier. I'll bring it full circle kind of to what we discussed a little bit earlier on. I was looking for it throughout the show, and I did find it. The episode was called Growing Hobby Concerns on the B Roth 6 channel. That was what I was looking for that. That was the one where you were chatting with the guys about that. 3 hours and 9 minutes, Dave. You didn't tell them that they were being lightweights? What the heck?
I got on, I think, 20 minutes into that.
Okay.
And I was dead tired then, too. It's just like, oh, when you're waking up real early in the morning and like, okay, I'm going to be on for like 40, 45 minutes. And then it's 2.5, 3, 4 hours later. You're like, oh, the day of work just, you look back and you're like, do I really need to talk about that for 30 minutes?
Dave, I have no idea what you're talking about going on to a podcast where you go in to possibly explain one thing and then spend like 2.5, 3 hours on it. I have no idea what you're referring to.
I figured as much.
Never happened. I can't relate. Hashtag can't relate. Exactly. Thanks, Dave. All right, so we'll finish off here. Uncle Vinny. Yep. Treasure trove of inserts lately. True. I don't know what that one's about. That was probably about the episode. I'm not sure. All right. Thanks to Vinny. Thanks to Jeremy. Thanks to Paul for hanging out. I know there's probably about 9 or 10 viewers right now that I'm watching that we didn't hear from possibly. Thanks to Steve for hanging out. Thanks for my younger brother for answering questions about Big Rig beer. That was helpful. That's good. All right. Thanks, guys. So we're just shy. We're 7 minutes shy of rolling into Monday on the East Coast, Eastern Standard Time. So have yourselves a great Monday, and we'll see you in the next hobby week.